Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Looks a little bit too dark, but I am your humble host, Mr. David Null, also known as Hawkeye Two Feathers, and I greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite creator. And I continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the blessings from the universe. And so this is a middle of the night, 4 o'clock in the morning. Um, I'm possibly a little bit of wisdom teaching. Um, it's odd that um, they asked me to get on tonight, this morning, and it seems like there are certain topics from my spiritual side of things that they want me to discuss for other people. And it's like, so, and I understand this because having been in jail, different monetary situations, I mean, there are situations in life that you feel trapped. And there's a lot of things we look around at us these days. Hey, Travis, how are you? Good morning. And so this particular topic is tell you what you need to know. I really don't know, Travis. I'm just here and I'm following a, it's 4 in the morning here for me, Eastern Daylight Time. It's 3 o'clock. Uh, it's Hey, Chloe, you needed me. Are you the reason I'm here? Because I was like, I was gonna watch some cartoons and try to go back to sleep, but it's 4 o'clock in the morning. 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm here again with you. It's all y'all dang's fault that I'm missing so much sleep too. I always seem to talk to you. Well, I'm always talking to y'all. I mean, Chloe, and and it seems sometimes that I know we've never met, but it's almost like I know y'all, in a way. But anyway, the subject seems to be that Amanda, howdy, good morning. It seems to be about the people feeling trapped. And I do look at the news every day, much to my chagrin. Let's not grin. Let's go and not grin. Well, anyway, it has gotten so much now where people are using certain buzzwords over and over and over and over and over again. I mean, both sides. And I just look, and I don't even want, because of the trigger words that are in the titles, I don't even want to look at whatever the newsreel is. Explosive news, and you go, okay, what is it? Well, it's explosive to whom, to who or to whom. But this idea that, God forbid, people are, oh no, don't get me wrong. I want to say this right off the bat. The thing in Palestine and over there with the rockets, red glare, and all that is not a pretty sight. As much as I love fireworks, I take great pity on both sides. Okay, because the people on the streets are not the people most of the time who are firing the rockets. So the war is between beliefs and whatever. But the idea, though, that innocent people are dying over political nonsense is just always, been a tragedy. I mean, just go back. I mean, Rome, and just go back in history, and the powerful always seem to want to be in control for whatever the reasons. And for thousands of years, society has done that to us. I mean, I was at the end of World War II, but the Hitler thing was so, very real with the people still in the 50s when I was born. So people remember that. They remember what it was like, and they remember the food lines, and they remember commodities, and they remember, saving metal and turning it in. My grandma used to work in a factory in Dayton during the war, making bullets. I mean, I don't know if she was making bullets. I'm just saying. But, a lot of women worked in factories during the war while the men were overseas fighting the war. And so things were so much different then. Now, I bring that up in that those people, I mean, Hitler was not a good dude, and the people that really believed in that cause of wanting to kill everybody and take over in the Third Reich, Fourth Reich, whatever Reich they wanted, they had no right to do it, if you follow that little bit of hey, Chloe, let's see. Amanda, okay. I didn't know if anybody else had joined in. But anyway, so if we just, that's a really bad, nasty worldwide situation. And we've had situations before, but not quite like that since then, okay? We don't want that. We really don't. So, but there are people now back back in those days when there was so much going on. There was the war effort, there was this, everybody was working for the war cause, and people were going over. There were there was that. And although people felt at the time that they were trapped because of the war machine, for 4 years, the United States turned its attentions and everybody pitched in. So they sort of opened their own trap door. And what do you mean? Well, they felt trapped because Hitler and the Japanese and everybody felt trapped. So the way out of the trap was to fight. The way out of the trap was to, was to kick butt and take names, kind of thing. Okay, all right. Now, the situation that we find ourselves in currently, hey, David Castle, is not the same. But there are traps nonetheless that want to trap us as humanity. So, there's the COVID. There's all these other things going on. Pipelines and hackings and rockets red glare in places, protesting, people not being honored just as people, people trying to force respect and honor upon themselves when they actually don't deserve it. But those people who stand in the street and go, look at me, I'm the one. You should, that's the ones. But anyway, so there are a lot of folks on the sidelines that just want to live their life normally. But they look around, I look around, and I can see where other people feel trapped in these situations. Now, I know my situation is different. I'm retired. I live on my own, on 18 acres. I live out in the country. All of these things I talk about, but these are the things that I made choices about. So at the time, I felt trapped because everybody else had good running water, and I was living in a half-built house. Now it's 3/4 built house, but I'm still building on it. Oh, and the concrete came out really good too. I'm going to do a separate thing with the video and what I did, but anyway. But in this, though, um, the choices that we make. So for me, I saw things in the future and I said, I don't want to be trapped by that. When I get older, I want to have my land paid off. When I get older, I don't want to own it. I don't want to owe anybody. When I get, so all these things were things that I planned on because I saw the trappings of other people who had mortgages and who had this and who had that, or lived on a small lot and they didn't do, there was a neighbor of ours that we never really knew. He was an old man that would come out and sit on the porch, and we'd go up and bug him, you know. And one night we were coming home from, my parents were playing, we used to play pinochle once or twice, on the weekends with friends of ours. And we were coming home after a night of their playing cards. And I mean, it looks like our house is on fire. And the closer we get, the fire's in our neighborhood, but thank God it ain't our house. It's the next block over. So as we get closer, park in the driveway, run through the neighbor's yard, because by this time there are fire trucks and all kinds of people around. And we're standing there in this little piece of, it was a lot, but we called it the field. And so we're standing in this field watching this house burn, and all of a sudden we hear this loud bang. And they're sitting on this bench in the corner of his property, their property in the field. This man slumped over, this figure slumped over, and all this bright light from the fire trucks and the house ablaze and everything. And somebody comes up and go, he just killed himself. And we were like, what? The old man had had enough. He set his house on fire, brought a 410 shotgun, went out and sat on this old bench that was in the corner of his property. And while all the firemen and everybody was standing around and the house was aflame, he put the 410 shotgun between his legs and blew his head off right in front of all of us. Now, thank God we didn't see it, but we saw him slump over. We heard the bang and wondered what the hell was going on. And so he felt trapped, and the only way out, that was his doorway out of being trapped. And we as kids didn't know that actually we, instead of going up and pestering the old guy, we should have went up and visited with him. But we didn't know. We were little kids, and maybe it's the pestering that keeps us alive. So in this feeling trapped, many people feel like there's only one way out of a situation. Now, like I said, we were kids, little kids, I was preteen, like maybe 11 or 12, not very really old and understanding about stuff. And but as I'm much older now and kind of feeling a little bit like Boo Radley, in that there are people who are feeling trapped in their situation, and they get so desperate that it seems like the only thing to do is set the house on fire and end it all. That's the reason for that particular story. He felt trapped. He was old. Nobody came to visit him. And I'm like, I might die in this house and it takes somebody a week or so for them to find me, but I'm not going to off myself, and I'm not going to burn the place down. So I can promise you all that, at least at this point. Now, the situation might change in the future, but that's not my intention, right? So, but what's the secret of feeling trapped? And the secret to me is having your mind liberated, to be able to understand the depths of the universe, so that regardless of whatever this physical situation might be, we're coming up on a 20, whatever the physical situation might be, And we might seriously, honestly, be trapped. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not saying that where, we create things just, to bitch about them, but no. So, but that if we're free in our mind and we're not trapped in our mind, whatever other trappings there are, it allows us enough be able to connect with the universe and find out where the trap door is, where that secret door is out of our trap situation. So, but anyway, um, it's 4:15, so we got 5 minutes. I got a pre-bowl here. I had no choice. Oh my gosh, but he was old, dear Lord, and it ain't like he had much. Had a friend of mine kill herself when she was afraid of going to high school. Yep, I understand. I spent way too much of my time obsessed with killing myself. I get it. I hated big crowds and being trapped in a building with a bunch of people I don't know. Yeah. But when you take command of yourself, then, not to say there ain't some unfriendlies in the crowd. there, there usually are a one or two unfriendlies in a crowd of people, but the feeling of trapped or the fear of it. And I mean, and trapped in an elevator, trapped in a stair, trapped with other people you don't know. And then there's the feeling of, the government is oppressing us and we feel trapped in our situations. The job market sucks and we feel trapped in that way. Can't find dog food in the stores. I feel trapped about that. That's one of mine, right? But there are sometimes we set the trap up without thinking about it. In other words, like for me, I didn't fall in the trap that some other folks that are my age and older, where they're still paying a mortgage, And I realized that by the time I got to be 65, I needed to have my shit paid off. You know what I mean? At whatever cost, I needed to have my stuff paid off. And I did actually before that. But to the point though, because I knew I was going to be living on limited income and I knew that I was going to have to scrape and get by, on limited income with, whatever inflation rates. So I saw this ahead of time and said, I'm not following into footsteps of elders that I have seen get trapped in that situation. It's almost 420, eh? 18. But so anyway, so one of the ways to avoid the traps is to use your own wisdom and see if there are any traps being set in your future in whatever way it might be. And walk around them, step around them, avoid them. Look at the ground, and if you see the ground's been disturbed, it might be a hole with bungee sticks in the bottom of it. And if you step on it, you're going to get a spike up through your head, So we want to be careful in life in general, and we might. And one of the things I hear folks say, well, I'm stuck in this apartment and I'm da 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 da. And they, every time they say it, I'm stuck in this apartment. Yeah, you are. Because you keep repeating that word. I'm stuck. Well, okay, then get unstuck. Well, I'm stuck here. And a year later, they're still stuck there. And I would say change that sentence a bit. I'm stuck here for the moment. And you go, okay, so what does that mean? Well, if you just stop the sentence with I'm stuck here, that's like permanent. If you say I'm stuck here for the moment, whatever that moment is, it could be another year. But the thing is that I'm stuck here for the moment, doing the best I can. If you just say, well, I'm stuck, well, then you ain't going nowhere. You have no intentions because you've just ended the sentence there, right? So when you give yourself an out, well, I'm stuck here for the moment. You know, if you're renting for somebody or whatever to do, I'm stuck here for the moment. And it may be that you are there for the rest of your life or not, but for the moment. So you allow yourself an out up here, okay? And it's important because if you set the trap yourself, oh, it is fire in the hole. Yes, and it's an original 422. I ain't making it up this time. I'm here for y'all. So the traps we set mentally are the traps we use our words and our thoughts. I'm stuck. Or are you stuck temporarily? Well, I'm stuck at the moment. Okay, well, then say for the moment, not to say you're stuck. All right. So right now I feel stuck in the mud, and you may be, but tomorrow's another day. So, but if you don't consider that tomorrow's another day, or that maybe you will figure something out tomorrow, if you just focus on being stuck, then you have accepted Coyote's trap. You know what I mean? And so whatever befalls you is kind of sort of your fault because you put yourself there and you allowed yourself to stay there, and then you reinforce it by going, I'm stuck. I'm trapped. I'm here. I'm stuck. So the first secret out of the trap is I'm stuck for the moment. I mean, think about Houdini. When they tied him up with chains and closed the lock and everything like that, he was stuck for the moment. That's an honest to God true statement, you know? But he didn't stay stuck. You know what I mean? So we have to consider ourselves that if you know, at the moment I'm stuck, but anything could happen, in the near future that would change things. I mean, I got a visit from a friend of mine that I haven't heard from in a couple of months, and he's doing much better. He's the gentleman had the lawnmower fall on him and put him in a coma for 3 months, and they said he'd never walk again, and he's walking around pretty good. He's not driving himself yet, but he's still walking around pretty damn good, considering they wanted to unplug him twice, and his wife said no. And here he is, and months later, and getting around on his own and going to therapy and that kind of thing. Came by to visit and brought me a present and some fresh peaches. But anyway, so I wasn't expecting that. You know what I mean? So from one day looking out the window, I spent all night last night. Well, I spent 4 hours talking to y'all too, but when I got done talking to y'all, I went outside and literally finished up concrete and did some a little bit of landscaping with 700 pounds of concrete I mixed last night. Oh my God. I knew it was a lot, but then I counted up how many bags and how much I actually poured. Yeah, it is good for him. And he's a Marine. He doesn't give up. I'm not a Marine, but I don't give up. And so one of the first things he said, he's like, wow, you did pour concrete last night. And wow, it's looking good. And he goes, you're going to finish this damn thing, ain't you? And I said, yeah, I refuse to give up. And I'm about 4, maybe 5 years older than he is. But we're relatively the same age. And he goes, I can't believe you're out here mixing concrete, and doing this. He said, you're a tough old bastard, ain't you, Dave? And I'm like, I am a tough old bastard. I just refuse to give up. But anyway, so, and by saying that, what I mean is that I refuse to feel trapped. Now, there are times when I do. My truck's not running. I went out to get in it the other day and the battery was dead. And I was like, some bitch. So, but I took it as maybe I don't need to be on the road for whatever reason, charged up the battery and did a thing. Anyway, it all worked out. But at the time I was like, some bitch, I wanted to do this and I can't. So now I'm feeling trapped. But it, like I said, it didn't feel that way for long because I have been here for so long. I was like, well, okay, I'll charge it up. I got two other batteries, but I just didn't feel like trading them out and all that. So, I created my own trap in that I could have got out of it. I have my own. I set up my own trap doors ahead of time, two other batteries, and I instead chose to kick the dirt for a few minutes and bitch, and damn battery. And it really didn't last long. And hooked up my battery charger, hooked up my solar battery charger thingy, and monitored it and kept an eye on it and all that kind of good stuff. And went to town the next day. So, but the idea though that there are times when we set our own traps. I should have went out and disconnected the battery terminals because I've got a short somewhere in my truck and it has a tendency to leak the battery down over a couple of days. And all I got to do is just disconnect the negative side, and it can sit there, right? And it'll still be charged. It doesn't lose a charge because it's a brand, but there's something inside my truck that will come on all by itself. It's goofy. So, but anyway, so I set the trap myself by not unplugging the negative side, which only takes a couple of minutes, right? My tools are already there right inside the door of the truck. And I've done it a gazillion times. But I complained because the battery's dead. But what I'm actually complaining about is I didn't go out and disconnect the terminal because I know my truck has issues. So sometimes we set our own traps and then we can bitch about them for days. So, but what did we learn out of the situation? Are we like Coyote that we're setting ourselves up for these grandiose, a piano coming and falling on our head? Ninjas incognito. Yes, I was going to do a story about the ninja shaman. Anyway, but then you saw the universe protecting you or something else needed you to stay. Yeah, I didn't want to overdo it last night, Chloe, but I damn near did. But it got to the point where I've had it's been marked out in the ground and everything, the rest of my porch beside the house on the outside of the thing. And a big pile of dirt's been piled there, and it's just been, a construction site for months. Yeah, I mean months, like 6 or 7 months or more, or something like it, for months. And so when they brought me that extra cement yesterday, I was like, it probably wouldn't take but a couple of bags, and I'll just mix it right here where I boxed it out. Is about a 3 foot by 6 foot rectangle in the dirt, right? I already got it down to depth, got everything, and all I had to do was just dump in the bags and throw in the water and mix it up and pack it into place, right? Well, as I got started on it, I realized, well, there goes 3 bags. That ain't enough. Well, better add another bag. Well, 4 bags wasn't enough. Well, then I added the other 2 bags and went, oh shit, this still ain't enough. And I needed to get to the end of the house. So then I looked at I had 2 other bags of older mason, and they had hardened. But, so I had to break the pieces up. Now, at the same time, what I've already mixed is starting to set. So I got to keep things going and keep it wet and and so several hours later, after all this mixing, I used up even a bag I shouldn't have used up, which it took me even longer to beat it up into pieces. And but it's drying really nice. It's a little strange, but it's drying. It'll be there. And it's on the outside of the house. It's sort of like my outside porch kind of thing. But I've had so much problems when it rains real hard, and it will, and that the water will puddle there, which is one reason why I wanted to fill it up. And the other thing is so that I can finish the outside of the house there. because I needed to have the porch thing and the outside brick, the last layer need to go on. I need to make the turn. And I set my own trap up by not mixing the concrete in a container like I normally do. So the trap got set for myself last night, because I said I'm going to mix it up right here in the sink. It smelled like turpentine and looked like Indian ink. I held my nose and closed my eyes. I took a drink, boom, 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 boom. I didn't know if it was day or night. I started kissing everything inside. But when I kissed the cop down on 34th and Vine, he broke my little bottle of, sing along with me, love potion number 9. But anyway, so I set my own trap up this morning and I had to get out of it. So I set it, I poured it, I mixed in some other stuff. Now it's an outside porch. I'm not really worried about it like I would have been inside the house, right? Inside the porch. I mean, I still wanted the concrete and all that good stuff, to set right. But I realized that after I got done on here, I went outside and took a whole corner off of it because there wasn't enough and it was going in the wrong direction. And I started doing some landscaping. So after I did 4 hours on YouTube, I went outside and played landscape artist and finished texturing the cement that I poured last night. And so at daylight, I'm still out there, digging dirt and putting in brick and finishing, because now that I have this section done all the way to the end of the house, now I can work on the patio that will attach, that's kind of sort of there. I have a bunch of brick on the ground there that will be my outside patio there in the yard. And the reason for that is so that I won't have grass growing right up to the house. And also when it rains, the brick patio and everything is to funnel the water that comes down the hill, down this little step that I just built and onto this new floor that's still curing. And so it will run past the house rather than collect at the house and want to flood. So, but anyway, and it looks cool too. Is like, I've had this picture in my head of arcing the patio a little bit. It's not really a patio, but it sort of is. It will be when I'm done with it. An outside place to, put a table and some chairs. But I didn't want to be able to have it, because the hill's going uphill right here. I had to dig it into the side and do some constructive landscaping, but I didn't want too big of a step. So anyway, I'm doing all this stuff after I get done, right? Because it needs to get done before the cement cures. I mean, so I decided that I had this plan in my head to get myself out of the trap. I went out there this morning and did this little fix it. And I had to work harder to get out of it, but there you go. Be in your reality again, Sue. Good night. Okay, good night, David. Good morning. Always in our reality, even when physical or communication is mute, though. Through words, right. And one of the things that I'm seeing that everybody is picking up on, and I think it's a wonderful thing, is that, it's not so much a precognition of things, but we're feeling other people's feelings and we're reacting to them. And one of the things that's very important is that we don't overreact and set up traps for ourselves. But in this life of stuff, so last night, early this morning, I went out there and looked at the concrete and how it was sagging uphill. And I was like, this ain't got to work. It's going to puddle right there in the corner. And I can't let it puddle there. So I had to get busy. I had set up my own trap by not thinking through how many damn bags it was going to take me to finish that little piece of pork. Well, I got enough. I didn't. But I salvaged it, saved it, and it looks pretty damn good. all things can, especially after salvaging it and then working on it at sun up this morning, you know. So one thing, we can get in a trap and we can look at it and go, damn it, and let the trap spring and we get caught in it. Or we can say, oops, there's the trap and I'm almost caught in it. How can I, I got 1 foot in the hole, or my shoelace is tied in the string that's going to zap me up into the tree or something. And I see it and it's almost sprung on me. And how do I not get it sprung on me some more? And that's when we have to take control of the situation. We have to believe in ourselves enough. I've done enough crazy things in my life and landscaping and stuff. I was like, well, I can do this and that and this and this, and that'll salvage what I want to do with this, which is that I wanted to be past the edge of the house with the concrete. So any water that came down the hill would not collect at the house, at the corner of the house, but would fall onto 3 inches of concrete, sort of, and immediately start to flow downhill and away from the house. So it won't collect, So I had to fix the trap that I had set for myself, in that, in trying to avoid a water issue, it was going to collect there. So anyway, so we have to use the wits about us. We have to use our talent. We have to use the wisdom of whatever we've done up to that point. Or for me, I just stopped and said, okay, now I got it. I see this problem. Now, how do I fix this? Now, I need to fix it at least temporarily till the concrete sets. I can always go back and re-landscape and move the brick around because that was just dirt. But I had to do something quickly to be able to hold the concrete in place and to make sure, So with the traps that are set, we can get out of them if we're willing to and work, and we only get smacked slightly in the side of the head versus having our head lopped off. So the traps of the world now. So there are people who are bothered by things all the time. I say this. A friend of mine, the cell phone user, got a tablet. Oh, I just got an email from such and such. I know they're having all these problems and blah blah blah. And I'm like, and why are you upset? Well, every time they bother me with this and blah blah blah, and they're accepting all of this negative stuff, and it doesn't really have anything to do with them. Oh, well, my niece, she's having problems with that. What's that got to do with you? Well, but it's my niece. Yeah, but it's her problem, not yours. So is your blood pressure going up? So people, because they're always in some, not being nosified, but they're always in other people's business. So because they're in other people's business, they're setting up traps for themselves. So when they start going off because people are saying, I got this trouble, blah, 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 and then the person who has set the traps themselves are like, well, now, Missy Jalabli, she's having problems, and now she wants to talk, and I just don't feel like it. Hello, So if you don't allow yourself into certain things, if you pay attention to what is a potential trap for you, emotionally or physically or spiritually, then avoid it. Well, this road right here looks pretty damn dangerous. All right, well, you got 4-wheel drive, you got a winch to get yourself out of, you got, supplies in case you blow 2 tires and you get stuck on a mountain. Yeah. Okay, well, then let's go. Well, no, it's just me and the kids in the car, and we was just out for a drive. Then don't go down that road. Well, but it looks okay. Don't go down the road. And so there are people who, now I was the guy who went down the road anyway, and I've got myself out of a lot of traps. But I also realized that I kind of set them up myself. I allowed myself to go into danger, which you go, if you're following your intuition, intuition says, maybe not. And you go, what the hell? And then that maybe not isn't a tragic event, but there's a trap there nonetheless. So we look at the world, and there are so many people like, in the Crimea, it's all Putin's fault. No, it ain't. And some of the war machines that are over there are definitely the Flash. Even some of our stuff, the US stuff, has got V's painted on them. And people are like, well, that's the tank command. No, that's the bad guys. That's V from like the series V, the Flash. They're the bad guys. But they're driving around in UN tanks. Are they U.S. tanks? Or yes, but it doesn't mean it's us or a representation of. Well, it's not a true representation of us. But there are people who are going, yeah, but there are U.S. soldiers in there. Yeah, but their commanders are not of our side. You know what I mean? The good guys. So they want to start this war in Crimea with Putin, who is working with the K group. But he's the bad guy. Well, if you pay attention and you see the trap that's being set, and the trap is politically, everybody in America is supposed to be against Putin. Well, if you're really watching and watching how the people are setting the trap to blame it on Putin, you go, oh, well, there they go again. So now why is that important is because as those of us who are, quote, woke, if that's a correct term even anymore to use, it's so overused, is that when you're woke up and you see and you see these patterns, the first thing you should go is fold your arms and go, are these events that are coming up to trap me? Is it to trap my mind into something? So I'm going to keep an eye on it. Well, okay. Well, then as soon as you agree to like keep an eye on it and hit that box for the alerts and everything, you've just set a trap for yourself. Well, what do you mean, Hawkeye? Because you set the trap to go off. What do you mean? Well, the trap is you're on alert. Okay. Well, yeah, but I want to know. I get it. I get it. But do you have to be on alert, or can you just go to bed tonight and check it in the morning? Well, I want to know. Okay, but at 3 a.m, if your alert goes off, because whatever it is, it doesn't have anything to do with you directly. You just want to know. There's nothing wrong with that. But to be on alert. So everyone is on alert for something in this world. And so by putting ourselves with our applications and our the apps and the this and the that and all that kind of stuff, we're setting ourselves up to be trapped. We're setting the trap ourselves. What is it? It's the alert. It's my phone went off. It's the something. And what is it? Well, if it's, one of your kids or somebody, you're going to have a grandchild or a child or you're, oh, well, the Queen and it made a statement about the alert. Okay. And people are alerting themselves to some of the dumbest stuff. So what's the trap? The trap is they're losing themselves into the system. They're losing their spirit. And a lot of times it is causing them some sort of physical harm, stress or not enough sleep. It's agitating them brain cells in your head because you have alerted your cell phone to alert you, which means your subconscious is going to stay tuned to listening for the alert. So you don't get any rest because your brain, your subconscious is always on alert. How are you going to feel any peace? So it's like, oh, well, I might feel trapped. Yes, you have set them up yourself, Coyote. What? And people have a hard time to look back on what they just did and go, well, uh, didn't you just do that? Well, yeah. Why? Well, because I want to know. Well, do you want to know at 3 in the morning when you're supposed to be? I'm awake at 3 in the morning sometimes, but as y'all know, but to those folks who sleep during the nighttime, um, do you really want to be alerted then? Is it how important is whatever it is that you need to be alerted? Is it really important that you be alerted? Or can you wake up in the morning and just go hit the refresh button or go check out a link and go see what the weather is? Well, it might get to be 100 on by Monday. It might. Well, 2 days ago, they were like, holy crap, it's going to be 100 on Monday. Now they're going, not so much. It might get to 96. Okay. Because even I was going, so within 2 days, they revised that. So alert, alert, alert. Oh my God, we're having a heat wave. It's going to be 100 on Monday. And I was thinking, holy shit. If it really is, then I kind of sort of need to plan. Maybe if I'm going to do any concrete work, I want to get it done before it gets too hot. So I poured concrete last night. So it was an impetus for me to not get in a trap, right? Of it get too hot and I can't work outside. So, all right, I'm going to go with this. Well, in 2 days time now, from over 100, it's going to be in the 90s. Okay. But it could get hotter than that a couple of days later. All right, I'll go with that. It's a Bermuda high. It sits here, and this is what happens in this part of the country, these times of the year. But at least the humidity's down. I'm loving that part, right? Let's mix concrete while the humidity's down. Because we can have 80% humidity and it'd be 70 degrees and you'd be sweating your ass off, So, but anyway, so do I see the forecast and be trapped by that? Or I see the forecast and use it to my benefit? I'm glad I poured the concrete. Because the cooler temperatures, it will cure better with fewer cracks. So those folks who set themselves up with their cell phones or tablets or whatever it is, who claim they don't do it, have done it. And I keep telling you, have no business by that trap. You don't belong there. Yes, human brain, bad, stupid when it comes to the spiritual journey. That's why the spiritual divine mind should take over. Divine knowledge is the telepathic answer of knowing beyond shadow of a doubt. It's just in there. Yeah, well, sometimes, there are things that will come up that I'm like, I think I got the wisdom for this. And then there are sometimes we're just going to have to stop for a minute and go, But it's not that we're in a trap, but society, I mean, when Georgia shut down the states and everybody had to have masks and everything went here when they were setting up curfews and you couldn't be on the road. And there were those of us who were still driving around. I went to see my friend and I'd come home late after curfew, but I'm like, if they stop me, I'm just going to say, look, I got stuck at my friend's house and I'm going home, You want to arrest me for just going home? Okay. But, you can follow me there. But that didn't happen. And many people, quote, broke the rules because they, like a lot of us, just thought it was stupid, but we stayed home out of fear. And many of us are, there are still people who are feeling trapped with this. although things are opening up, you know, the state of Florida is kind of back to business. But in having talked with some folks down there, like there's still people down there that are scared. Okay. But you know, you're scared of something that's always there. So meaning there's always viruses, there's always going to be germs someplace, you know. Just grow up, wash your hands, you know, take it, be careful. So do people set up their own traps in that? Yes. So what we need to do is the first step is to be able to know if a trap is being set. Are we setting the trap? Pay attention to what you're doing and how things are evolving. And if you see yourself, Gordon, heading towards a brick wall, don't, you know, look for the brake pedal or a way to jump out. If you're going really fast, get out. You know, does it have airbags? Don't know if I should trust them. But do you want to have a steering wheel shoved through your neck or your chest? Not really. Then get out of the way. Duck, get down in the car, something, you know. I know that's a sort of a gross thing, but in some of these traps can be that dangerous to us. So, and one of the things, regardless of what that trap is, it does affect us spiritually, our mind, and our body. The stress of the fear gets into our system, and it wreaks havoc on our spiritual side. So, how do we get out of it? We look at our situation honestly and go, you know, well, every time Aunt Maud calls and asks me to do something, I always get into trouble. Then tell Aunt Maud that you just can't do it anymore, or whatever it is, or you know, then avoid the trap. If you just can't because of some obligation or whatever, then try to avoid as much of the trap as you can. Take control of the situation and don't allow other people to influence you to go, oh no, the X is over here. Step over here. We want to make sure that rock hits you really good, you know. No, you know, the rock's going to fall. Okay, but I'm going to sidestep it. It might fall, but it ain't going to hit me on the head. So how do we get out of the traps? Sometimes just a little bit of patience and the guard will leave the door open. They'll forget to lock it. Whatever it is. So we look for those opportunities, not necessarily, well, yes, to escape. Yes, that is a way to put it. So there are people who are trapped. They're trapped in a mortgage. They're trapped in a this. They're trapped in a, some kind of payment. They're trapped in a, hold that thought. So the first and the best way to find that secret door out is to stop using the word trapped. Because if we continue to think that way, we'll never find the secret door. We'll never find the secret to get out. Because we're trapped. Oh my God, we're trapped. Oh, I'm so trapped. Oh my God. You got to stop that. So, okay, I'm trapped. Now, how do I get out? Well, I'm trapped. No, but I'm going to look around and see. There might be a seam. Is the door even locked? Did I check the door? Maybe I can work the latch and maybe they left the key in the door. Who knows, right? So, but I'm trapped. Okay. You can be pissed for a minute or two, but then look for the solution. Now, getting off of being trapped, and for the first month or so when I was in prison, I'm in prison. Oh my God, I'm going to have to, and then I had to just get over and go, you're here, buddy. You're here. Now let's make the best of it so that we can get out of here. So when you free your mind, everything else is like, it's okay. I got this. Divine knowledge is the telepathic answer, looking beyond the shadow of doubt in a human suit. You confirmed what I concluded. Speaking, thinking, believing, and feeling creates what it is. At least in our brains, Chloe. So the more we consider ourselves trapped, I mean, and let's just think about Gilligan's Island. They were stuck on an island. They didn't say they were trapped on an island. They were stuck on an island because they were making the best of it and always, that one of these days they'd be rescued. And they were, but to the point, though, that they were, they didn't use the word trapped a lot. You know what I mean? They were stuck on the island. Well, that's different. You can go down a dirt road and get stuck, but it doesn't mean that you're trapped, and never going to get out, and a dinosaur is going to eat you. But it does mean that you're stuck, and that's an obvious, and it's okay. Well, I'm stuck. Okay, so if you say I'm stuck, the next thing out of your mouth should be, so how do I get unstuck? At least in me it is. Well, after I kick in the tires a couple of times for being stupid for getting stuck, but then the first thing is, because you can't dwell on, okay, I'm stuck. All right, now that is a fact. All right, well, let me get in the vehicle and rev up the engine and spin them tires. Let me sink down another 2 or 3 inches to where the muffler's on sitting on. No, don't do that. I'm stuck, and I'm not. Before I get any deeper and make it worse, I'm going to stop what I'm doing, and I'm going to take a look at my trap. I'm going to look at my stuckedness, Well, how stuck am I? I don't know. Well, at the moment, if I don't spin my tires, I'm only this deep. If I rev it up and do the thingy, I'm going to be this deep. Then I'm going to have to jack it up, and I'm going to have to. So let's be smart about this. Spinning our tires and spinning our wheels is only going to get us more stuck. So the first thing we should do is, well, I don't want to get more stuck, because then I'm going to get trapped. Aha. So the secret is to stop what you're doing and pay attention and look around you and observe the situation. Well, I'm trapped. Are you? Are you just stuck? Okay. Are you going to stand there in the middle of the road and, and go, I'm stuck, I'm stuck, I'm stuck? Well, then the next thing you should do is figure out what your options are. And it doesn't matter what it is in life. If you only focus on being stuck and trapped, you'll never find a solution. Never, ever, never find a solution. Because the brain will only see being trapped until you gnaw your leg off, kind of thing. Having self-awareness of, I don't want to get caught, I don't want to get stuck, I don't want to feel trapped. We're going to feel that way. But what's our reaction going to be? One of the secret doors out of being trapped is, okay, I'm trapped. I feel like I'm in a box. Okay, now what do? You're feeling that way. So what's your reaction to, I'm feeling trapped? I'm feeling trapped. Okay, so what's wrong with that feeling? I'm feeling trapped. So what do you want? I want to be free. Okay, so focus on that. How do I get free? Not that you're trapped. Because what do you want? I want to get out of here. I want to get free. Okay, so I'm trapped. I'm trapped. I'll never get free. I'm trapped. I'm trapped. I'm trapped. No. Um, Rethink it. So we trap our simple thing with this because of all the things they did to me in jail and whatever happened, I still had my own thoughts and freedom of thought. I have freedom of speech too, but that could land me in solitary. But or a punch in the face or gang raped or there are different things that so but the idea though that those if we understand our situation even just a little bit, throw in a dash of patience, which is wisdom. It's wise to take a second and say, okay, now let me see here. So the secrets of getting out, of try to avoid the traps ahead of time. That's one. If you see that you're almost in the trap, and then the next secret of this is to try to learn how to do a little bit of side dancing, how to avoid being okay. There's no way I can get out of the trap, but am I going to get a spear through my gut? Or am I going to get in the trap, but I'm only going to get grazed when I fall into there? Uh, you know, there's falling on the rocks to your death, and then there's falling on the rocks to where you're clinging on, and you don't go quite over the edge and plunge 50 feet to your death. Okay, so you go over the cliff, but you have found a ledge, and so that you can work your way down, and that you're bruised and battered, but you're not dead. So you're going to fall. But how can I make or am I just going to go, well, that's it. Here I go over the edge, never mind. Or you're going to find a root or a rock or something on the way down to try to slow your descent. So number one secret, try to look at number two, try to minimize it if you are caught. Number three, then is to you're in whatever trap it is. Understand, okay, now this is going to take some figuring, no matter what it is. My brother and I was stuck on a mountain, and literally stuck and trapped in deep water and mud and ice cold. I mean, there was ice floating on the mud puddle that we were stuck in. The temperature high for that day was 31 degrees, and it got down into teens that night. But anyway, we made it off the mountain, a little worse for wear, and a little scratch on the truck, but we made it, but giving up was not an option. And so we had to stop a couple of times and fold our hands and go, how are we going to get out of this one? And there were multiple instances going down that mountain. Hey, Esty, how you doing? Side dancing, yeah. And sometimes it's just twisting our body. It was like watching a kung fu movie where they're throwing the spears and all, and they, instead of just standing there and getting hit broadside, you turn sideways and it just does graze you. That does exist in the world. I have fallen off of things, and there was something below me, and if I twist just enough, I'm not going to get skewered by a rake that's laying on the ground, versus going, no, tough shit, and you get him impaled. So, but anyway, so the third secret in this is that you have the faith of yourself and enough patience to look around and go, I'll figure this out. Now, some traps are worse than others, but the third secret is that you still have your mind. It's not trapped. Okay. And people say, well, that's not really a secret. Oh, but it is. Because when people get trapped in a situation, they allow their mind to get trapped, then they get sucked into that reality, if you will. And so they can't be free because they're trapped. So if your mind is free, that's, that means your spirit is free. And that means physically, unless you're like bound up trapped, if you can walk around your cage, then I have the freedom of walking, you know, I have the freedom of exercising in my cage. I have the freedom of movement so that I don't, I may feel trapped, but I can close my eyes and my mind is free. And I did that a lot when I was in jail, of thinking of other places. And other people want to go mad, and I'm going, I'm glad it was only a year. I don't want to repeat it, but I did it. And I realized what helped me was those exercises of meditation and astral projection and so forth that I did when I was in jail. So my reality was I was still in jail, but in my mind's reality, yeah, my body was trapped or stuck, but I wasn't. So yeah, I had to go by the rules, and yes, I had yes sir, no sir, boss man, all that kind of stuff. 7 days a week, for a whole year. But the idea is that freedom's at the end of this. So why am I going to tolerate this? Why will I go along with this or whatever? Now I got myself into the trap, you see. So while in the trap, the best thing I can do is wiggle sideways and come out, smelling like a rose as much as possible. The fewest scrapes, right? So, but whatever it is that is your issue, then look at it like, well, I I borrowed money and now I have to pay it off in a year and a half. And God, things are going to be tough for the next year and a half. And oh my God, we're going to have to give up stuff. And so you can trap yourself. Well, I had to borrow money to fix the car or something. And now we're going to have to pay it back, and our budget's already mine. And we're going to have to do this. I get it. So you had to do something that's kind of a trap. But don't get trapped in the trap of trapping your brain. Well, for the next 2 years, I'm going to have to do like this. Well, I've done this. And you literally count the days until it's paid off. And all you do is stress the whole time. Well, I'm going to pay it. It's going to be hard on them. We're going to have to give them. I'm not going to be able to get a pizza when I want. I'm not there. Whatever it is, we set ourselves up for that trap until whatever the obligation is that we paid off. And it puts us under stress. We're going to lose. I mean, I was going to lose my property. They were going to, because they'd raised my taxes so much and had put all these fines and things on it. What was a $300 tax bill ended up being $1,000 if I didn't pay it off with funds and taxes and all these other things. And, the government, let me tell you, so you can bitch and shake your hand all you want to, but then they still get your property. So the best thing to do is plan ahead. So I would set my own traps every year because of the property tax, because it pissed me off every year. And when we're going to come up with the money? Well, I needed to rethink how I was spending my money and what I was spending my money on. And I realized that for what it was costing me for a cell phone every month, I could save that money up at the end of the year and pay my taxes. Oh, well, that's one way, but I felt trapped for years and I always got caught every year. So how to get out of it? The secret is I got money stashed right now for when my taxes come due. And I'm like a year ahead, but I've already got enough money stashed away. As much as I don't want to give them $450, I got it stashed, because I don't want to get into a situation where I don't have it, you know? So, in a way, the COVID, kept me from going places and spending money. But in a way, that's a good thing. So I don't feel trapped. I'm actually, they're making me stay home. Okay, it's really rough. But in staying home, then I'm saving that money. So I've actually got my tax money already this year for when it comes due in December. So I ain't going to worry about it. So there are things that we can do. There are ways that we can choose to acknowledge our issues. I'm okay that things in the courthouse this week, everything turned in my favor. So yeah, breaking free in my situation. Oh, good, ST. Wonderful. Uh, First time in 5 years, truth comes out, and did the hands up before I went to the room. It worked. You mean it's like this? You say, please, Jesus, help me. Lord, walk in this courtroom or wherever it is with me and help me out. Cheers. That's what I got to say to that. Um, believe, right? And have faith. Now, there are times when it don't work out in our favor, but, but for me, like when I got put in jail, I was facing 20 years. And so I talked with some people and did a thing and ended up only spending 1 year in instead of 20. And, instead of like 7 years probation, I only got 4. And I was allowed to have my probation transferred back to Georgia because that's where I was living at the time when I got busted. So, yes, I did time. Yes, I had probation, but I wasn't on parole. It was probation. And yes, it was transferable. And yes, yes, yes to all these things when I was facing 20 years. So can't bitch, you know? And I didn't have to do anybody to get that, you know what I mean? It wasn't no bending down or none of this stuff. I got it just by being a decent person. And I mean that sincerely. I made a deal with the sergeant of the kitchen. And he goes, no, if you do me right. He talked really gruff like that for real. No, you do me right and I'll get you a year here. And I said, okay. We shook hands and he did. I did. Both of us upheld our part of the bargain. An honorable man. And he was my jailer, but he was an honorable man and from the South. And even though I was making hooch on the side, not a lot, not a lot, but we were making hooch on the side. And I hated that I had to lie to him about that. But, we didn't get caught and they tried. We didn't get caught. So, in terms of like that, he sort of expected us to get drunk once in a while. And we did. But still nobody, I mean, they could smell it on us. Oh my God. We were in an elevator with this guy. And if he couldn't tell we were drunk, then he's never been around a drunk. We were slopping on the ground. We smelled like moonshine, we smelled like hooch and he did not bust us. And he could have. And by all rights and records, he should have, but he knew how hard we worked. And we were just having a good time playing cards in the stock room and happened to have a couple of drinks among friends. And we were snockered. Oh, and the hangover. Oh, and let me tell you, you put a lot of yeast in a small container with some fruit to make your stuff. It will clean you out. You don't need to take no X-Lax. You drink some of that and it'll you right out, let me tell you. But anyway, but so are we coming up on a 20, I think? Yes. 5:14, 6 minutes still a 20. Um, Good. Hi, Ian. Good morning. Yeah, I haven't been up all night. It's been an hour and 14 minutes and 55 seconds. Yeast. Yeah. Uh-huh. Uh, it's amazing for people who not. I learned how to make that hippie wine in jail, but then I learned through some folks around here down in the South how to perfect that hippie wine. But let me tell you, if you're looking for fruit to make some kind of wine with, and if you want to make just a fruity wine that doesn't, it isn't just grape or this or that or whatever, fruit cocktail, one, one of them gallon cans, the big cans of fruit cocktail, and uh, about, well, we didn't use any sugar because we didn't have very big containers. So we just left it as syrup, okay? But one package of yeast, 4 gallons of water, because that's about 1 gallon in that container. And I would add another 5 pounds of sugar to help the yeast work. And pour it in syrup juice and all. And make it, it'll make about 2 gallons of wine when you sift it all out and everything, maybe 2.5 gallons. But if you cook it up right, fruit cocktail with the cherries and the pears and the grapes in it and everything, and it makes a really good, interesting wine. I mean, we might have crapped ourselves for 2 days, but it tasted really good going down, let me just tell you. But anyway, I've made wine out of lots of different things, and one of the best wines I've ever made was with canned plums and prunes. And people go, "What? Prunes make an excellent wine." Oh my God. Nice, good color to it. Prunes, yes. And it won't make you poop. But as far as prunes are dried plums, without the seed, mostly. We made wine out of raisins before, but not quite as good as the plums. But the plums have a color. You'll have this nice purple color. Oh my goodness, it makes a great wine. But anyway, enough of that. But on to I'm wrapping to get to the 20 mark. I've got me a bowl already kind of sort of attached. But in this feeling of being trapped, and I know there are a lot of people that have lots of different concurrent situations in their life. And I look back on my life and think, man, I was trapped in this thought. I was trapped in this. I was trapped with, how far I had to drive for my job. I was trapped in a lot of stuff until I stopped feeling trapped. And then I just accepted it. I was like, yeah, if I want this job, I'm going to have to drive 100 miles a day. Do you feel trapped? Well, I wish I had something closer, but there's not. So shut up. Accept it. So then it wasn't a trap anymore. And I wasn't stuck. Well, yeah, okay. Well, but I could think on and on and on and on and on how far I had to drive every day, or I could just accept it. So then I wasn't stuck anymore. And I didn't feel trapped in it. I felt it was an obligation that I accepted, which was different than feeling trapped. I set my own trap up, and I also set up my own release. So, anyway, how we perceive things and how we look at things is very, very important. And we can literally be trapped, but if you wiggle your arms and your bindings, I'd learned to do some tricks, some Houdini tricks back in the day. And people were like, how'd you do that? When they locked me up against my will and strapped me to the beds, I'm strapped and I'm tied. And when they left the room, I said, okay, I need to stop. I am trapped here. I mean, I am tied to this bed. And I realized that at the bottom of the bed where they tied the straps, I could reach it. And so, because I've been a puppeteer and worked with knots and stuff, within a few minutes, I had one knot on one side of the bed untied. And I leaned to the other side, worked my other hand, untied the knot at the bottom of the bed by sliding off the bed. And by the time the nurse come in, I had my both handcuffs off and my feet untied, and I was sitting at the end of the bed with them when she walked in, and I said, do you want these? And they were like, how did you get out of those restraints? And I'm like, well, number one, I ain't telling you, but I'm Houdini. But do you really think you need me to put me back in these? And they just stood at the door and what are we going to do with this guy? And I said, all I wanted was to go pee and to get something to drink and something to eat. Here's your cuffs. Do you need to tie me back down, or can we talk here? So, but anyway, I was trapped against my will. And they managed to give me a shot that I didn't even know where to. I mean, it put me out. They held me down long enough, and I didn't resist. We're going to give you a shot, and I said, okay. I'm already trapped, but just don't tie me back down to the bed, will you? But you talk about some surprised doctors and nurses when I was sitting there and my restraints, I had untied myself from, whoops, But instead of yanking on them and making them tighter, and I realized that I really honestly did that. It's 5:21. I'm going to take another hit. I'm not going to be on all morning long, but I am up right now. I've had intermittent sleep and some stuff, and I worked my ass off yesterday, but I've gone outside several times just to look at my project, and I'm like, I'm really glad I put the effort in. And what a few hours of really hard work and some landscaping can do. I walked out of my house and went, wow, my porch goes all the way down to the end of the house. Wow. And I did this little bit of landscaping with the brick and everything. I've got a lot of old brick. And so in trying to finish up the porch and everything, I'm using the brick on the outside of the house and also as the patio to blend it all together because it's mostly all the same kind of brick. Came out of some old tobacco barns and some old houses and everything. But thank you, ST. And I'm going to do a video out there and show what I've done kind of thing, because I've done a couple of videos out there and showing what my porch is. And, what was a big pile of dirt is now more level and landscaped with brick around it and some patio stones that I had. But anyway, but to the point though, I did blow their minds, Chloe. I really did. When I untied myself, they were just freaking out. It was one of them pictures of like 3 or 4 people standing in the doorway with me, holding up my restraints, and I mean, they were like, son of a bitch, how do you do that? Please don't tie me down. I'm not going to fight, just give me a shot and I'll be good. I will comply, because it's obvious you're just going to tie me down again. But anyway. So there's been that I've talked about that time when I had 3 days on the river. I felt trapped. But at the same point, I was like, well, I'm in the woods. It was new surroundings, but not necessarily because I'd been in the swamp and in the area. Didn't I tell you I'm a shaman in training? Didn't you know? Yep. I honestly was thinking about doing a title for a show, Chloe. I swear to God, today it was the Ninja Shaman, and that it was basically, I'm going to do a show on it, but I think it would be, kind of sort of funny, but but maybe also throw a little bit of perspective in some things. But anyway, yeah, the ninja shaman. Yeah, how to become a ninja shaman, uh, and I'm sure it's going to be crazy. I'm sure it's going to be crazy, but it's one of those things. They give me a topic, and I wasn't ready to do that show right away, kind of thing. So I'm still in the mulling it over stages. But then here you come on tonight or this morning and talking about ninja. I'm like, all right now. So either the topics on my mind are leaking out, or somebody's got a topic out there and it's coming to me. And but anyway, it's in the universe. But I swear to God, I'm sitting here laughing because it's funny that you picked up on it, or whoever else out there with the ninja shaman thing. But anyway, yeah. So much for the surprise, Oh well. So self seal wait self realization in any situation. I was going to make that sentence really short and leave out all this stuff in the middle. Um, Self realization in any situation is important. And, like when I got knocked over out and was drowning, that self realization might come in an instant, or it may literally come take you a couple of minutes, or, to figure out your situation. But you always hear me talk about keep your core value, know who you are. And even if you get dumped into swirling waters, you're going to, that you're going to paddle your arms. You're just not going to give in and sink to the bottom. What are you going to do? You're going to fight. You're going to try to swim. You're not going to give up. So whatever the situation is, if you give up, that's it. Regardless of the trap, regardless of the situation, if you go, oh I don't know what to do. But if you're strong with your core value, your core belief, and that you believe that the universe will help you solve whatever the situation is. And it might not come right away. And for me, I was swimming and paddling, and it felt like somebody was dragging me to the bottom of the river, and I'm flailing and everything. And out of the dark comes my friend in the canoe so I could grab a hold and not go under again. So the next situation came with downstream a little ways was a tree bobbing up and down in the current. And so I let go of the canoe and swam for the tree, which saved my life. And he caught up with me. And I'm standing on this tree in the middle of the night, in the middle of a full moon, trying to get into the canoe and not drown and save what little bit I had. And it worked because I'm still here. But then the trip home was from the freezing water and all the times I'd been in 42-degree water, and my core temperature had dropped and all that kind of stuff. And an hour later, we finally made it back to the truck where I could get warm. But I never gave up. I kept thinking, my hands are cold. I can't feel the paddle, but I'm going to keep moving my arms. I'm still going to, I got to stay warm. 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 And I was in stage 2 hypothermia. And that's happened a couple of times. But here's the thing. If I would have given into it and laid on the bottom of the canoe, I would not have made it to the emergency room. It would have killed me. So you persevere on. And is it difficult? Yes, it is. But you can save yourself and get yourself out of trapped, stuck situations. Just believe that you can, and don't give up the faith. We have to be patient sometimes. Sometimes those traps we get into is like, I remember having to borrow money one time, and I had decent credit. They lent me the money, but I knew I was going to have to go to work and come home, go to work and come home. For a year and a half, I was just going to have to go to work and come home. Now, I'd picked up odd jobs along the way in that year and a half's time and was able to pay the loan off early. But had I only worried about that loan at the time and carried it forward every day, oh, this loan, we're going to have to do without, and oh, I'm going to have to do, and oh, I'm not going to be able to blah, blah, blah. I looked forward and said, well, it's going to be tight until I pay it off. Now, the good news is because I had the faith then, regardless, I was able, and of course, I was looking, for extra work or whatever. So, but I did pick up extra work and I was able to pay the loan off 6 months early. So, in that, though, we may be trapped, but however long we get stuck may be shortened because other things will come along that we don't see right now. So we're stuck at the moment. Yes, absolutely. But how am I going to get free? I don't know. Something's going to come along. I'm on the river, and something's going to float by. For me, it was seeing that tree bobbing up and down, and letting go of the canoe. Oh my God! And floating down to this tree, and I can still hear Jamie going, "Hawkeye, what are you doing?" And I was like, meet me at the thing downriver." And it saved my life. But had I not let go of the canoe and went and took that leap of faith, if you will, down to that tree in the middle of the river, I would have never been able to get back in the canoe because I was too waterlogged. The river was too swift. There was no way to try to get one leg over and get in the canoe. There was no way. So by having the tree there that I could stand on, I could get in the canoe. But I've often thought what would have happened had I not said, look, I got to let go. Here I am drowning in the middle of the river and freezing to death. And I've got to let go of my safety. I have to let go and have faith that I can make it to that tree, and it's going to save me. And that's how, and I did. And, that decision making at the time that I was in the river and all those conditions, I was having trouble holding on to the canoe. I was so cold. And that was only after a couple of minutes of being in the river. But the fact that I had to let go, because I knew I was not getting in that way. It was not happening. So I assessed the situation, and in that time, it felt like forever that it took me to make up my mind to let go and potentially drown, because that I can see this tree off in the distance. It was a full moon. And the current could have taken me to the left of that tree and I would have missed it. And I have no idea what would have happened then. But it worked. So, and perseverance on my part and swimming but I had to let go. I had to let go of my life raft, if you will. So, but that was the only way out of this situation, was to let go sometimes. So anyway, I'm replaying it in my head, and it was a very harrowing experience. And I do not take it lightly. You know what I mean? The experience of that. But in seeing, though, that I had to make a decision, but one presented itself, and it was a slim win, but I made it. So sometimes it's like, well, if you're in a trap situation, you're still wet and cold, and you did almost drown, and you're damn near froze to death, but you made it. I got some skin up arms and legs, and lost about $1,000 worth. I had a brand new camera. I had some other stuff in my fanny pack that all got dumped out into the river. And so I lost about $1,000 worth of stuff that was in my kayak. I don't do that shit anymore. A really, an old pipe that had been with me for years and years, and some other things, a quantity of stuff in a bottle that's floated probably down to the ocean by now. If anybody ever opens up this little bottle, there'll be some really good weed in it. But that's been a bunch of years ago. But to the point, though, I lost a lot, but was just so grateful that I was still alive, and grateful that I'd let go and grabbed a hold of that tree, and grateful that I didn't breathe, and grateful, So, but if I'd have thought I'm trapped and I'm drowning, then I would have drowned. So we can't accept it. Yes, I'm cold. Yes, I'm in the water, but I'm not dead yet. So whatever the trap is, however severe, now I know that's a really severe situation, but we feel like we're drowning sometimes in life, too many times, and we can barely keep our head above water. I know what that feels like. And you're being drugged back down into the water, and you can't breathe, and you're fighting for air and to come back up, and you feel like there's no other way out. But there is. Keep swimming, But what do you mean? Because there might be a sandbar. There might be a tree that you can grab onto to lift yourself up out of so you don't drown. Having used my previous true story about that. But, but if we're only focused on drowning and not living or swimming and surviving, then drowning becomes the option really quick. But we can be drowning in debt. We can be drowning with too many emotional things that are being put upon us. And an hour ago, I was talking about, cell phones and things, and people always having an alert on. Hey, Michelle, how are you? So that, people are being alerted about stuff. And so their brain is always in this alert state, and it's always, so, that's a trap we set. It's a trap that is normal, people say, in society, but society is accepted an abnormal in that all these computers and all these things, and everybody's face is stuck in one. And one of the reasons why I try to resist it at all cost, because I used to be stuck and trapped in that, to where I spent days and days and days on the computer doing whatever it was that I was doing. And at the end of it, I sat back in my chair, and now, well, you spent the last 3 days doing this. What have you got? Well, did you work on the porch? No, I was on the computer. What have you got? Well, I learned this and that and this and this and that. Okay, Hawkeye, but what do you have? What's tangible? Is the knowledge even tangible? Well, some of it was, but was it worth 3 days worth? And I realized back then that I was going down rabbit holes because they were interesting, and I wanted to know more, and I kept diving. But the more I dove, the more it just confused me. And now you hear me talk about, well, here's a rabbit hole, and there is stuff in that hole, let me tell you. But if you know that there's a rabbit hole and that there's that kind of stuff in it, you don't jump in it. But you know where that rabbit hole is. And you keep an eye on what's going in and out of that hole. You know what I'm saying? So that was those lessons. But the weeks and months and years of wasted time, because I thought I had to know about this. Well, in the long run, I'm looking at things now, and people will, send me a message or something. Sometimes I go, Hawkeye, do you know about this? And I'm like, yeah, I knew about that years ago. Well, and I don't mean to be rude, but it's not new to me, show me a new twist on something. I'll be glad. But, if you're going to show me about stuff about Bob Lazar, I I was on it all them years ago when it happened. And what about this? Sorry, I don't mean to be rude, but I knew about that. And I've been mulling on it for the last 30 years, where you're just coming to this information now. I'm glad you're coming to it, and I'm glad that you're excited, but I don't have the same excitement, enthusiasm that you do. Because I'm trying not to be rude, but been there, done that, you know? And simply because I honestly have been. You know, there are folks that are just starting to learn about Edgar Cayce, and I knew about Cayce back in the late 60s and early 70s. I knew people that went and studied under, I can't remember the doctor. I talked about it, about the different massage techniques and so forth. I've known people who've been to the, Virginia Beach, to the center early on, before computers and everything, and talked and met and worked with the people. I didn't have it firsthand, but I had it secondhand and was studying on my own. And it does, and I mean no disrespect to anyone who's just now finding out about these things, but my enthusiasm for them is different than what yours is. There's nothing wrong with it, but I've had 40 years, some almost 50 years in some of these things. Literally, I've known about Cayce for 50 years and many of the books and things and stuff. I've known about astral projection and self-hypnosis and psychic discoveries behind the Iron Curtain, and stuff from the 1960s and 70s and beyond. So, this isn't pulling rank on anyone, but I've had 50 years to consider some of these things. And I don't want to pull rank. I want to share the knowledge. But if you're just finding out about it, go for it. But remember, at some point you're in your digging, I hope, like I did, that you go, wait a minute, did I dig my own trap? What do you mean, Hawkeye? Well, in going down a rabbit hole, you keep digging. And so the deeper you dig, now you look up at where that hole used to be. Now, how are you going to climb out? Now, having been down in the bottom of my well that is 22 foot deep, standing down there and looking up at that hole, it gets a lot smaller when you're standing in the bottom of that hole. Let me tell you, there's a different kind of feeling when you're in the bottom of the well looking up than it is at the top of the well looking down. But anyway, so if you keep digging, do you have a ladder? Did you bother to bring a rope? Are you strong enough to climb the rope if you brought one? Just saying, these are things to consider. So I've seen people, Brian Barnett and I talked about some of this stuff way back in the day. It seems like forever now, 4 years ago kind of thing. In that, and both of us were guilty of digging so deeply into these rabbit holes that we couldn't get ourselves back out. And we had to figure out a way to climb back out of the hole. And so, but the only way to learn about it sometimes, I can warn about it and tell people, be careful, there's a rabbit hole. Be careful, there's a potential trap. Be careful, there's this over here. But it's still up to them if they want to walk down the path and run into the tripwire that springs the trap on them, I know that there are a lot of folks, I love them to death, and they have no idea how badly they're addicted to their telephones. They have no clue. And I love them to death, and I try to point it out. Boy, you and your phone, you just don't go anywhere with that thing, do you? A little bit of a dig like that, but without being too it depends on who it is. Oh, yeah, this is my lifeline. Okay. So have they accepted the trap? It's somebody else's trap, but they're always checking on apps. They're always looking at this. They're always doing the thingy. So they say, well, no, I'm not trapped by that. Have you been trapped in it so long you don't even know it's a trap? You're in a cage that you didn't even know you were in because you accepted the cage. You accepted the trap, you know? So, but when we become aware of our traps, that, oh my God, I didn't know I was even in a trap. Ah. So when you become cognizant of the things around you, because you may feel trapped because you might not have any particular reason why to feel that way, but there are so many of these things that are pushing down on you. But the only way you can find out who that big, ugly, masked wrestler is that's, jumping up and down on your chest in the wrestling match thingy. Don't know why I come up with that when it just kind of sort of popped in, but, where you're laying on the mat and you're watching them climb up the ropes and they're fixing to jump on your ass. Do you lay there and let them do it, or do you roll to one side, and let him land on the mat? Because he can't change direction on the way down. You can. So you think to yourself, oh my God, I'm trapped. I'm stuck. Are you? Move and get out of the way. And, and it might be less painful to you. Not to say you'll be knocked out or dead, but you'll be more trapped, right? So, but you have to look at your situation and your surroundings. And it may be that you got caught up in a wrestling match you didn't sign up for, but because everybody else was doing it, and you become part of the crowd. And I'm thinking about electronic appliances in general. People got to have a $2,000, refrigerator that freaking talks to them and connects to the Wi-Fi. That's so stupid. Oh, we're out of milk, ding dong, you get an email. Now, stop it. People are stopping, they're not being human anymore. They're being cybertrized because of these, gadgets and stuff. Well, I got my cell phone. Yeah, but you won't ever shut it off, and you're always there with it. And oh, look what's happened over here. And so you're always emotionally attached to that thing. Isn't that a trap? Sounds like somebody's trolling for humans, with using the fishing pole and a line behind the boat kind of thing. I think folks are fishing for humans. They're fishing for emotions. They're fishing for reactions. They're fishing to keep us in a chaos, and then whenever they do their thing, they got us caught in their net, the internet. Think about it. So anyway, I'm not going to harp on this anymore. It's been an hour and 48 minutes that I've been doing this, but I just wanted to get on, and it just felt like there are people out there that are feeling trapped. Now, I brought up these physical things because people are being physically trapped they're sort of aware of it, but not really. And when if you know that your cell phone and you can't do without it, at least you've admitted it. And that's a big step. And you can put it down over there ways and not carry it with you all the time, or having it sit beside you. The computer sits here on this table, but I close the lid often. So I can lift it anytime I need to, punch the little button and let the Wi-Fi do its thing. Or I can sit here and go, not yet. But it's here. It's hooked up. All I got to do is push the button and let it reboot. And I will sit here, and there are times I'll lift the lid and the spirit will say, not yet. And I put it back down. Because whatever I would have done online, I miss doing outside projects. And when I go outside and my projects aren't done, I look back and go, that's because I wasted time on a damn computer. You know, I could have been outside just doing something. I spent 3 hours reading and listening and doing these things when I could have spent at least 20 minutes outside, you know. And I would have been able to go, you know, I'm sure glad I spent that 20 minutes outside because I got that done. I got to throw this away. I moved those, you know, I still have tree limbs where I cut trees down this last winter. And I still got a pile of wood over there. I don't know what I'm going to do with, because wintertime quit early and I still have wood left over and I don't know where to pile it without it being in my way kind of thing. So it's sort of left where it was cut. And that's not good, but, you know, but anyway. So, but I'm working on those things, you know. There are these little things that I didn't finish back then because I thought I was going to burn up some of the wood, you know. And well, it didn't. So it's summertime now. And now what am I going to do? I'm going to stack it for this coming winter, which will be in a few more months, you know. It's coming. So, but these are things well, my excuse is, let me check mail. Let me check and see who's what. Let me check the headlines. Let me check, you know, to be honest with myself, I don't want to go out there and lift logs. My back hurts, and I'm you know, and I want to bitch about it. So I spend time sitting in this chair looking at this screen, and then at the end of it, the log still ain't moved. Now I've spent 3 hours that didn't give me anything, and I still have to move the logs. You know what I mean? So, Coyote, I set my own trap of frustration. I should have just closed the lid like Spirit was telling me. And if I move one log a day, at the end of the week, the pile will be gone, sort of, you know? And if I use the wheelbarrow, I can move 2 or 3 logs to the backyard location and get them out of the way in the front yard so I can finish mowing the grass and you know, okay. But in that little description, though, I've set my own trap. I opened up the computer screen, which trapped me. I convinced myself it was better to do this than to move firewood from my front yard. You know what I mean? So our choices. So I could have closed the lid at any time. I could have, you know, I could have. So last night, after having concrete, I poured about 700 pounds of concrete plus, I don't know, 6 or 7. Wait a minute. No, 5, 10, 15, about 25 gallons of water almost, because I was filling up 5-gallon buckets. And all that mixing and everything. And oh my God. But going outside and looking at the work that I did and the effort that I put in it, sore back or not, I'm really glad that I put forth the effort. So when we put forth an effort, even in things that we regret, when we're done with them, we don't regret that we did them. You know what I mean? Well, I'm going to go move that wood. Yeah. And I mean, it's out of the way, but it's not really out of the way. You know, there are weeds and stuff going around it, and you know, it's right where you pull in here to the house, and you know, it's eyesightly, and they're you know, everything else is weed eated around and looks really nice, you know, and here's this clump of stuff because there's logs in there. And I don't want to do that right now. Let me go for a walk. I don't want to do that right now. You know, so at some point there's going to be enough will be enough, and I'll go out and move those logs. And until that point, it could be a trap And that I get caught in this, well, I really need to do that. I haven't done it yet. You know what I mean? So I either have to accept that I haven't moved the logs yet, or shut up and quit bitching, or go out there and move them. Whether it's in the middle of the night, the middle of the day, if it's bothering you that bad that you have to keep bitching about it in your head, then that's because you're bitching at yourself because you haven't done it yet. So if I go out there, and the way I'm talking about it now, and as much as now that I got the concrete in and some other landscape done, I really want to move the wood now so I can finish the weed eating around there, right? And finish the landscape as you pull into the house, after all these years of piles of sand and brick and cement bags and stuff, I, that's not there at the moment. And I'm getting better, and the house is, the brickwork's more done and less concrete work done. I'll start with putting up the framing soon. And so now it's also time to clean up the mess and make the landscaping look better too. So when you pull up towards the house, it won't look like a pile of shit. It'll look like what my imagination has been for the last 3 years of what this would eventually look like. So it's all right, Esty. We love you. But anyway, so me and my friend was talking about today, and I said, we could take the simplest thing and allow it to fester into a wound. And it's better that we don't do that. It's better that we say, all right, I haven't moved the wood yet. I'm just using that as my current excuse. I haven't moved the wood yet, and the grass is still tall there. And yeah, I really need to do that. But okay, I got the concrete done. So, okay, I spent the energy doing this other thing. But here's the thing, though. It makes me proud that I finally got that done. So it's going to make me even more prouder to go 20 more feet and move those logs out of the yard, and I can start working around the flower bed thingy and where I cut the tree down, and there are great big hostas growing. There's some other things growing there, and allow them to come out. And so it will look nice if you pull up to the house here. It won't be this pile of construction that's been there for the last couple of years. So it makes me feel proud. Why am I doing this? Well, not too many people come to visit me. But if somebody does, I don't want it to look like, there's enough junk in my yard and stuff around. And I do feel pride for the work that I do and stuff. It's been my circumstances. So to be able to get to a point where I've got this much done and it's being more finished and landscaping, there is that, wow, after 3 years, I'm finally getting this done. After 3 years of planning and digging and chopping, oh my God, the roots I had to chop out again. Oh my God, these trees. But I'm glad I've done it because now the roots are a long way away from the foundation, and I've made some, provisions for them not growing right up against the porch. So, but anyway, I'm still going to have to chop them out every couple of years to keep because they will tear up the foundation eventually. But anyway, there's enough concrete and stuff down, and I've chopped enough, roots far up enough hill. It'll take it a while. So I'm good for a couple of years. But in that, though, I can stand in the yard and bitch because it's not done, or I can stand in the yard and plan on what I'm fixing to do next, and then do something. If it ain't but move one brick, it's move towards it instead of regret. So living in regret doesn't finish anything. It only tears our souls up. I spent too much time on the internet and I spend too much time here and there. Okay, well then stop it. Stop feeling trapped. Stop feeling that you're stuck in something. Okay, so you did it. What are you going to do about it now? What are you going to do tomorrow? Are you going to repeat the same behavior? Or are you going to use some wisdom and say, look, that's a trap right there. And I'm Houdini. I'm going to figure out a way out of the trap. Hey, Crafty, how are you? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Sounds like beautiful curb appeal. Stand and get dirty. Okie doke. Yeah, I got to go out and do some more landscaping before the dirt settles good and turns back into hard pack. And I'm up this early, in the middle of the night for me. But I've taken several naps during the day. I mean, I got done about this same time yesterday morning and went outside and worked for 3 hours on the concrete and on doing landscaping and stuff, and also noticing that the sun is not coming up in the east. It's coming up in the east northeast. It is past east and it is way further over than east. I'm just saying. So, and I was looking at Scorpius tonight. And also, I did not know that the constellation I was looking at, Scorpius, points right at the constellation of Libra. So I've been watching it too. And then I checked my stellarium thing of where the stars are. And I also noticed in watching how the constellations go. So I've been bitching about uh, Scorpius laying on its side. Well, as it moves west, it will have a tendency to look like it's turning on its side. But tonight, my observations of Scorpius, it was way up higher in the sky than it was the other night, laying on its side or not. So, but I have not watched this constellation as much as I have others. So I'm more tuned into it now and its behavior, but it was still higher in the sky than it was a couple of nights ago. And also the moon has moved from straight overhead to now it's off a couple of things. And someone sent me a comment about, and this is in a positive response, in that I've talked about the earth wobble and stuff before, and that's true. Here's the thing. Back in the day when I was growing up, the earth wobble took 20 years. So the moon would be straight overhead and it would take it 10 years to go, or 7 years or something anyway. It would take it so many years to come down, but it would always be in the lower side of the sky. It wouldn't be low in the sky for a couple of days and then end up straight overhead again. No, that used to take like 20 years. Overhead next year, next year, next year, next year, next year, or maybe it was 10 years round trip. But anyway, but it would take it a year for it to move in so many degrees in the sky. And yes, that's natural, but it ain't natural that it happens, in a 3-week period. That is not natural. So anyway, I wanted to toss that in there too. What time is it? I know we're coming up in the early morning. So if I stay for 15 more minutes, I can finish this bowl that I started. Nodes have changed. Yep. I mean, when I was outside yesterday morning now, but 24 hours ago, and I'm watching the sun come up, and I'm like, and I got a compass on the floor, and I looked east, and I was like, east is like that direction, and the sun's way over there, another 5 or 10 degrees north of east, okay? And it shouldn't even be at the east position because the summer solstice is when the sun supposedly comes up true east, okay? And it's further north of true east right now. Go out this morning and check. And if you got a compass or a cell phone or something, you could put a compass on and you look at east, and then look where the sun's coming up. And you tell me it's early. It's way early. It's 30 days early and it's already too far north. But anyway, King Scorpius. Yeah, I've got several compasses, but this morning on the way out the door, I've got mine on a certain spot on the floor. And so it's my orientation from the house to the rest of the world, right? And I was sitting here taking a break, and it was light outside and the sun's coming through the window. And I got up and walked over to the compass and I went, oh shit, that's not east. It's east by northeast. Uh, uh, East by northeast. If somebody says, what is your heading? You go, it's west by northwest. So first it's west by northwest. So you're going to take a heading of west, but then you're also going to head north to the northwest position, towards the northwest position. So if west by southwest, well, then you look in west again, but you're going to look in the same 10 degree or whatever difference to the south. So, whatever if it's east, okay, but it's east by northeast, meaning it's the north side of the east point on the compass. Anyway, so that's sort of, compass lingo for those folks who are, don't understand what it means. So, but if it's north by northeast, it's north by northeast. So it's not just north, it's north by northeast or north by northwest. Okay, so it's north or it's north heading towards the east or north, So, but the designation always is the primary direction. Once you get to like northwest, that means it's north and west. It's both. It's halfway distance. So, but anyway, coming up on 6:20, and I am going to leave it with you. One line east west, another line formation. South is water, west is known as earth. It depends on which tribe you're from, Crafty. And I mean, which on the planet kind of tribe. But anyway, on the 26th of this month, something big is supposed to be happening with reality shifting or something. Yeah. And I swear to God, I mean this with the utmost of respect to the universe. There has been so many times that people have talked about this, and there's so many times I got there, waited on it, have even prayed and meditated positively on it, and the next day just went, okay, so so it's like, okay, all right, big deal, okay. Well, and I hope something big happens with it. I'm continuously hoping, but I have gotten my hopes up so many times over the years that it's just another day to me. But I'm early, ain't I? Oh well, 10 minutes early. Oh, and I swear to God, if somebody mentions another blood moon, I'm going to scream out loud. Every time God, it's these people over here and it's these people over there. It's another blood moon. I've been through a bunch of them, and eclipse is coming. Yeah, those are always fun, and I mean that they're always fun. But all of this prophesying about energy changes and stuff, I'll take whatever the spirit gives me, and I'm always open. But I am not getting my hopes up with these folks no more. I just ain't. Uh, but I'm always gracious to the universe for any help and changes. Um, but so, in my humble opinion, not that it doesn't matter, but I've been through solar eclipses, lunar eclipses, eclipse. I remember when and I'm gonna call it Halley's Comet. And everybody would know it's Halley's Comet. No, I'm sorry, I grew up. It was Halley's Comet. Saw Halley's Comet. Have seen and observed both with binoculars and telescopes and by naked eye many other comets. And each one of these was supposed to be the harbinger of something. And what it ended up being was a comet going by. That back when Halley's Comet came through, I got a poster upstairs of Halley's Comet and all of this stuff. And man, I was like, because I'm an amateur astronomer, telescope person. Yep, I do remember Halley's Comet. I do. Oh, what? You're all going to get hooked up to the Niagara Falls. Okay. But anyway, but these celestial events that all of these prophecies and folks tried to convince us of, here's another, that blood moon. Okay, well, what happened? After the blood moon, how many people went back and went, okay, let's, all the prophesying and all the chaos and everything everybody wanted to push about the last blood moon. I'm just saying, let's have a chat. What happened? Was there any kind of shit? I'm just being, because y'all said, and the time before that y'all said, and the time before that y'all said, and the time before, I'm getting tired of these time before that thingies. I'm getting old. I've seen a bunch of these things come by. And now, folks are, oh, here comes another one. And I'm like, okay, and to me, if it's an extraordinary day, I'll be very grateful. But I'm just looking for it to be just another day in the life of us, Could it be very special, or the energies? Yes, to all of that. But the day after, I want y'all to come back to me and say, okay, now what was all the hype about? And if you go back and look at some of these other folks, they never go back the day after or 2 days after all this prophecy, blood moon stuff, and everything's going to happen and all this, and it don't. And I'm not trying, hey, witch moon, happy rising. I'm fixing to go to sleep. But, and witch moon, I just want to say I've read your comments and so forth. I'm grateful and gracious for all of them. Thank you. Okay. You remember exactly where you were. This time it will be a little different as your time is fed up as well. It doesn't feel that way, Crafty, but I know there are other folks and folks in that way. In my realm, it hasn't, but okay, your reality may have sped up, mine hasn't. Now, the other day, I felt like and I talked about it about last Sunday or Monday, that there seemed to be some kind of time something shift, or something was a little off the other day. about a week ago now. But or anyway, and I'm having time differential at the moment. But I'm noticing where the sun is. I'm noticing time of day, and that the sun and my sundial do not correspond with the clock. And yesterday, or I guess it was a couple of days ago, the sun was late. It was light and everything, but when it came time to what time is it to the sundial, that was about an hour. The sun was about an hour late, which I found to be interesting. And I used to clock it every single day. And during the day, the earth can speed up an hour or lag behind an hour from what the sundial says. And my sundial don't move. It's in the same location all the time, and that's my house. And so I can tell by the shadows in my house and where the sun is. Now, it's getting up to where I'm not getting too much sun in the house at the moment. But I can still tell the position, whether it's overhead from my position, and look at the clock and go, it's 2 o'clock and the sun's overhead. That's the 12 o'clock position. No, but the clock says 2 o'clock. Then how come the sun is straight overhead? I mean, like straight overhead. It ain't some kind of figment of my imagination. So, and then the next day at 2 o'clock, it's in where it should be, kind of thing. So, but anyway, Pluto in early spring, but many didn't realize. Yeah, remember all those light workers back in 2012, and they thought they were, yep, I was a part of that group. Not the ascension part, because I've always had this thing. I'm not ascending anywhere. I'm going to transition. I'm taking the transition. But anyway, they're still in ascending mode. Yeah, in very slow mode. Yep, I agree with you. One of the things, and I mean no disrespect, I swear, to folks who are into astrology and so forth. I know there is science in there. But one of the things that isn't being considered is there are spaceships bigger than Pluto that are all over in different portions of our solar system. And they've been sighted, they've been seen on satellites. These things are huge. And now I just want to throw this into the mix. Nobody's talking about these huge, massive objects that are literally moving about our solar system. Okay, they're in different positions. You know, the extra moons around Jupiter and Saturn that, oops, they lost 3. What? Then they weren't planets, they're something else. But now here's my thing. There are objects bigger than some of the planets, probably bigger than Mercury for sure. And I've watched the transition of Mercury across the sun many times, way back in the day with a simple telescope. So people talk about, ooh, the transition of Mercury. Yeah, it happens all the time. But anyway, you know, some people, whoa, it's all right. I'm just saying, I've watched it myself. It goes on really regular because Mercury is so much closer. And, you know, so it's happening all the time. But there are some folks who will go nuts over something like that. But my curiosity is this. There are these objects that have been seen on the sat in different layers and stuff like that. What is the cosmic weight of them? In other words, so we know that planet Earth has got whatever density it is, right? It's this big, it's got so much dirt or core, this, that, it's got so much mass to it. Now, what about a big giant spaceship? You know, I mean, we'll talk about the Death Star, not as a Death Star, but as a large object. Um, does it have any mass to it? In other words, it's there, but does it have any pull on the planet? Is it disrupting other magnetic lines? I would say yes, at least by disrupting it, but maybe not by the the basic mass, like it's not a big solid piece of rock. Although it is suggested that some of those big things, and it's 6:20, so y'all have one. Um, so, but to this though, um, these big giant objects. I mean, I mentioned it yesterday morning, and I meant no respect to Ben and suspicious observers. I don't. Um, and I didn't mean to. If it sounded like that to anyone, I want to make sure this time around, if you heard that one, I meant no harm. But there are many people who used to do YouTube videos that talked about all of these sun diving comets because they were trying to explain what was being seen on all these instruments and satellites out in space that are pointed in all these directions. And but I accepted long time ago that, oh, there's the spaceships. Okay, there you are, and other people have been trying to, no, that's not a spaceship. Yes, it is. No, it ain't. It's a sun diving comet. And so the people who've been trying to stick with the science, now, God bless them. I mean this. They're trying to stick with the science, and that anomalies that show up, they're trying to use science to explain them when science ain't going to explain that when it's a spaceship. But that's not in their realm of belief. And for me, I had to accept it because I realized in all my years of being an amateur astronomer, I never witnessed anything like that. you know, uh, Folks would find comments and they'd report them and way off in distance, but we as amateur astronomers would see them, okay, without the aid of a satellite. So if something's diving into the sun that lots of amateur astronomers, quote, should have normally picked up, okay, if it were a comet, because we'd be seeing it out here and the science community would know about it. No, it shows up in a couple of frames on one of the satellites and doesn't come out the other side. It was sun diving. So therefore, well, wait a minute. What if it just went past the sun? It didn't dive into it. It just went off the other side. Well, wait a minute. And it wasn't a comet at all. Well, what are you saying? I'm saying there's other shit out there than, just space dust and debris. When they landed on that comet or whatever it was, and the thing bounced off of it, and it was sending off a signal, sort of like it was humming almost like a machine. And they tried to drill into it. It was like drilling into the side of your car, like metal, and like, what, this is supposed to be a rock. you know so let's go back into the science of things and and remember what they learned. And what they learned was it wasn't a rock. Okay, it wasn't ice. Okay, but it was a comet. Sun diving. Well, I don't know about the diving part, but so are all of these things that are comets, are they ice? Well, I've been bitching about that for years. If it was ice, it would have melted. It wouldn't, they talk about Halley's Comet, and it's a big ball of ice and all this kind of stuff. And when we looked at it with the telescopes and everything, it was like, wow, that just that just looks weird. It was interesting, but it was weird. Not at all like they was telling us it was going to look. Well, okay. Well, it's the ice and the crystals in the ice and how, and it's like, hey, man, but it ain't really ice at all, is it? So, but you know, they still will tell you that comets are made out of ice, and that's the particles coming off. After so many trips around the solar system, there would be an ice cube about this big around. If it was still flying at all, it never made sense to me then, and it really don't make sense now. But so, do these spaceships have any mass to them? And if so, is the mass of these spaceships, because they're obviously, some of these are big and round. I mean, I'm sure that many of you have seen those orbs that go right up to the sun and tickle out and do this little thing and then pop out. I've seen so many on my own before anybody ever said anything. You'd see this sunspot and then this orb would come out with it. And it's been said for a long time that different suns in the solar systems and in the universe are actually like stargates. They're, you go into the sun and pop out at another sun somewhere else. So yeah, you see the ships too. You don't know if you believe, you don't hunker down, get company, and make the best of the belief of your situation and reality. Yep. And, I still keep an eye on all these other things, but some of these folks are trying to say that here we go, this summer again is going to be another great big enlightening year and all this, we're going to transcend and ascend and I'm just like, I'm still waiting. I'm a patient being. I'm a shaman in training. And as a shaman in training, one of the things I've learned is it'll come when it's time. Well, when's that, Hawkeye? When it's time. Well, but when is that? When it's time. But it's a bit, well, has it happened yet? No. Well, when's it going to happen? When it's time. But what time is that? Well, it's not right now time, but whenever it's time for that event to happen, it'll be time for then, and it'll be time. That'll be the time. But when is it? Well, when it's time. Am I talking in circles? Leo season. But I'm still waiting. I'm still being positive. My spirit guides are going, not what y'all think, but that's me. I do not want to interfere with anybody else's beliefs in these matters, because and I have, honestly, I figure maybe if enough people believe it, then it will happen. Nah, not really, but I still believe that. It just hasn't happened yet. And if it has, then it was just a little ripple, and I couldn't really tell that anything has happened. Not like what is supposedly reported by some of these folks. And right now, my spirit guides are just shaking their heads going, no, just kind of sort of just another average day in the solar system. But, we'll see, again, I don't want to put anybody's beliefs or anything about that. It ain't about that. But for every time, and now this is just me personally. Y'all believe what you do, okay? I do not want to be an influence in this. But for myself, in trusting my spirit guides, for every time I've trusted someone else's spirit guides about this stuff, I always pay attention. Could it happen? Absolutely. I believe it. Is it going to happen? Oh, if it's time, it will. But we'll talk about it the day after and see what happened. That's all, And if it does, hallelujah. If it don't, I'm not going to be disappointed, because I'm not going to get my hopes overextended. In my opinion, every day is the potential day. I don't think we have to wait on any particular day. If we want to make choices and we want to make decisions and we want to put positive energy out there in the universe, any day is a good day for that. And in my later life, that it is my life's goal that every day is like that, because I continue to send out prayers to the universe. But again, if you know, folks who are doing timetables and all that kind of stuff, I understand enough of it to get me in trouble because I can't remember enough. But when I consult the spirits on these matters, they're just going, maybe a bump, but you know, I always get this sort of don't get your hopes up, because I've gotten my hopes up so many times before. And so for me, so I just like, so what about it, guys? Don't get your hopes up. Okay. But if something happens and they're wrong, which is okay, and if something grand happens, or even if it's a really nice ripple, but everybody kind of gets a feeling, you know, um, and then, I'm good, that shows that there's some proof to this. But all this spiritual, and the folks that are talking about the rapture are at it again in full swing. And the ascension thing. Oh, Jesus, stop talking about ascending. It's the transition. We are going to be like the butterfly and transmute into other beings. This ascending things, if you want to climb a ladder, go ahead. I'm not climbing. Okay. So, and I'm not climbing I'm always climbing spiritual mountain, sacred mountain. But this idea of ascending, just anyway, I'm not going to get into that subject either, but I stopped using that word a long time ago, because to me, it's a falsity, you know. You can ascend every single day of your life by simply allowing yourself to go out into the universe. But to transition into the next level, to transmutate into the next level, my mind can ascend to the heavens all the time, but I'm still here, and in my spirit, and but to make the transition to the fourth dimension, to make that transition like butterfly, I'm a wiggly worm down here now, and I feel like I'm in my chrysalis, and I want to be that butterfly, but you don't ascend to being a butterfly, you transition, So, and I most definitely want to be a butterfly. I don't have to be the prettiest. I don't have to be the biggest butterfly, but I damn sure want to be a butterfly. You know what I mean? So, but with that said, though, and I mean nothing against other people's beliefs or whatever, but anytime I wish to, and there are times anymore that I don't even have to close my eyes to ascend, to have a conversation with spirit, or to send a prayer out to someone, or to have someone, somebody's thinking about me, my nose is itching, so, okay, so I can send prayers right back out there while I'm still, working the concrete, or out there in the yard with Duggar, or taking a walk. So they happen simultaneously. Whereas before, I'd have to sit and meditate and do a fire and drum for a day, to try to reach that sort of thing. And the more that you practice and the more you allow it to just be, and to, stay, for me, I stay in that mode no matter what I'm doing anymore, because of my lifestyle. But I know that this was part of my training, but in doing that, though, so I ascend into a higher level of thinking or whatever all the time. But this ascension into another dimension, I'm not buying it. Let's all transition. Let's all transmute and become butterflies in the other realities. But I ascend all the time. But anyway, so if you're waiting to ascend, don't, keep practicing, just saying. It's around about 4 years, Capricorn, Aquarius. On a generator 5 weeks. I'll keep y'all posted. Okay, Crafty. As my own vision saw as finding yourself, the path becomes more awesome. Hawk as well, we've dealt with crying Black Moon Lilith as the butterfly last year. Caught that on video. Watch for the animals as signs of totems. Yep, I'm always watching the animals. And, yesterday was another day where I'm standing outside and I've hung up the hummingbird feeders, and where a hummer just all the way around me and then fed. So yeah, and interesting too thing, Crafty. The animal signs that show up here may not be the same animal signs that y'all are seeing, because there are people down in South America who are seeing things. And I think that some of the signs are related to each other. But I also think, now this is kind of sort of my spirit guide, that it has to do with, like, I'm not in an earthquake prone area. So animal totems, for me and us and what goes on in this region where I live, would warn me of things here more locally. So people in different parts of the country need to understand that the animals and how they react, there are going to be those signs that we all see, like with hummingbird and this. There are certain things, but how's the hummingbird reacting? It's not that you just see them, but how are they reacting? How are they reacting to other things around them? So it's not that you just see them. If you see them, then they're kind of warning. Not warning is not really the right, they're advising you to look around you to other things. So, like, what else is around me? Well, that hummingbird is beautiful. Yeah, but why is the hummingbird buzzing around my head? He wants me to look at something around. He's going, hey, I'm happy to see you and all that, but also pay attention, And is it joy that's right around the corner from hummingbird? Or can hummingbird also not really portend things, but is he, advising me of other things? But so where you live in the world and the animals and the signs associated there may not be the same thing that's going on down here, and vice versa. Just take that in consideration, okay? They're telling me that there are certain parts of the planet, that there are certain critters and things, that react with, earthquakes or storms, or, when I was down on the coast, you could tell if there was a storm coming up. By the way, the seagulls and stuff would act or react, and but anyway, but if you don't, oh, well, look, there's seagulls. Yeah, but there's a storm or not a storm anyway. Take the long way. There's no correct way for someone to tell you how to walk on your path. That's right. But there are signs that we can all share, and there are signs that we should share. And there are the lessons that, how things are down here in the South and how things are in the Northwest. I'm just using that because I was talking about having, spent a couple of days on the cliffs up there in Northern California overlooking the Pacific, and having walked out on in the ocean up there I can't remember the name of the town. It's up around Eureka, the Oregon and California state line up in that area anyway. And having never been up there before, and it's still a still very clear picture on my mind these 20 some odd years later, 22 years later. It was 1999 that we were there. But the idea, though, that how folks live there and the terrain and the plants and the birds and the stuff, there's a lot of similar. But I could see where if an animal totem showed up to me and I lived in California in that area that I'm thinking of, it would mean something different. And having lived down here, I would understand the difference because I don't live down here in the South. So the message is similar, but not the same. Anyway, I might be trying to, dice this up too much. But anyway, it's something for us to be aware of in our different locales, but there is a linkage. It's all linked together. My path, I taped Hawkeye over the solar eclipse start in the water, and the water has changed. Okie dokie. Este got to be safe and believe. Yeah, I'm not taking, well, actually, I am taking the scenic route, but I've also, picked some really nasty trails to go down. But anyway, y'all don't repeat my mistakes, learn from them. Don't know your location as I'm in Canada. Oh, I'm in South Georgia, close to Florida. Okay. I'm like 40 miles from the state line of Florida and Georgia. And if you've ever heard of Tallahassee, Florida, I'm north of Tallahassee in Georgia by about 70 miles. Southwest Georgia, I'm not in the corner, but, and, like I say, about 40 miles from the border, from the Florida line. So, anyway, in southeastern United States. But anyway. Yep. Yeah, me and Doug are going to go hit the river because it's down to 4.5 feet. And if it gets any lower, it's going to be tough to go paddling in places. But anyway, well, listen, my friends, I know it's going to be interesting, what spirits have showed me and given me and whatever, well, that's daylight coming in the window at the moment. So the light was bothering my eyes. It's been on mine anyway. Many of us are seeing bumpy times ahead. So for a lot of ways and a lot of things. And I do know that there are energies that are coming in all the time. The Schumann is responding. We had a pretty good spike the other day. I am not saying that eclipse and all this other stuff isn't going to be something. I'm just saying that all the buildup that's always put there, if it happens this time, yippee. If not, I'm not going to go, well, damn, man, y'all promise, because I'm going to say that ahead of time. If it doesn't happen, I'm not, it's not even going to affect me anymore. And I think sometimes it's very interesting, and I'm always hoping. I honestly am. I'm always hoping for, a cosmic miracle, if you will. But am I going to put forth hope, and then it doesn't happen and be let down again? The answer is no. I've learned my lesson about that, So if there's anything else, about that, I'm always positive that every day is that day. And I know that each one of us is in a phase in our life. And at some point, my prayer is that each one will end up being a butterfly. I'm hoping that each and every day, as I pray, that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe, and watch them totems, the animals, the skies, the clouds. Oh, yesterday they sprayed the crap out of the skies early on. I was so mortified. But anyway, I continue to pray each and every day when I put my 2 feet on the ground, that each and every one of you will continue to learn to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the blessings from the universe. And in that law of 3 that always is really important to me, I continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to learn to accept, receive, and to share the knowledge, healing, the wisdom, and the blessings from the universe. What you say, Cherry, you're feeling trapped today? Good, Crafty. That's a good thing. Yeah, and I found out too that somebody told me today that I've been talking about all these blueberries that I've got on my property, that they might actually be huckleberries, but the old time always called them rabbit eye blueberries. But then a friend of mine said, no, they're not blueberries, they're huckleberries. And I would have swore huckleberries were something else. So, but anyway, here I've been talking about blueberries. Now I honestly do have blueberries on my property, but all the ones I've been talking about may actually be huckleberries. So anyway. Are you seriously, Cherry, feeling trapped? I will send an next. Yep. Oh, they're great. And regardless of what I call them, they were good. But most of them are gone at the moment. There's some more green ones that haven't ripened yet. But hey, I'll take what I can get. I have a lot of elderberries that are blooming right now, and I'm hoping that I will just from the trees around here. And there are a lot of elderberry trees in the neighborhood, just right down the road, and and some of them are more easier to get to than others. But the one in my backyards are like in my backyard. So all of the, I'm hoping so. I will have elderberries after having mulberries, and if they're huckleberries, okay. I'm going to keep calling them rabbit eye blueberries for the time being. That could be the shadows of the black moon. Let us, I had to stop and think about this. Let me turn the light back on. They're asking me to mention this. As human beings, we're always looking for cause and effect of things. And as a human being, I was always wanting to blame whatever my mood was on something. Or it's a cosmic thing, it's a cosmic event, somebody's doing a something, I got a something on going on here. And as sort of a how do you want me to explain this? I got 1 sip of coffee left, maybe 2, and I've been sitting here for 3 hours now. try not to look for how do I put this? There were times that I was looking for an external thing to blame my mood on, when that external thing may have helped to influence it. It was an internal thing that, for whatever reason, that was a large portion of whatever was going on. Or there was something nearby me, a relative, a kid, or something, I mean, something really close in, you know. Um, but there were times that I wanted to blame it on something, and sometimes this shit just happens. And, I had to, I think as part of my ascension, as far as moving on above other things, was that I had to stop looking. Well, why did that happen to me? Well, what was that? Or what caused that? Or it must have been it could have just been the day. It could have just been you. It just could have been whatever cosmic thing happened in the world could have just bebopped you on the head like an acorn falling out of a tree on your pumpkin head. But in that, there were patterns with that I've studied over the years about our I'm trying to think of the word, our biorhythms. But here's the thing. In learning about biorhythms and paying attention to potential hazards in the future, I had to be careful not to project that, well, I got a low day coming up here, and it's going to be a new moon, which has always been my issue. Well, it's a new moon, so you're going to feel crappy on a new moon. I had to not pay attention to it, because there were times when I would create a crappy situation because I had talked myself into it previously, because a new moon, or it's my thing, or it's my biorhythm. Blame it on something. We have a tendency to want to do that as human beings. And so one of the things that I have had to climb over, that's why I use the word ascend, was that if you made it through whatever the hell day that was, and it was rough as hell, look back and see where things were. Is it a coincidence? Or I've looked back on stuff and went, well, the stars didn't really line up to be crappy that day. Actually, today or tomorrow is supposed to be the crappy day. So, did my stars line up, or was my biorhythm chart off, or, because I was always looking for something to blame it on. My mood, or how's my mood going to be today? Let me check my chart. Wait a minute. If I check my chart and it says, well, there's a potential to have a crappy day, then my mind gets set on the potential that it could be a crappy day. So I try not to look at that, because I don't want to be influenced by that. You follow what I'm saying? So in this latter part, about the last 2 years, where I used to look at charts and the forward thing, my spirit guides are going, how much do you want to know? You really want to, well, the potential's there. Well, I just looked at my horoscope, and it said, well, be careful today. Well, I'm careful every day. But blah 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 could happen. Well, that could happen any day. So, but if I look at what the stars might say about this, I don't want I got enough ideas in my own head to dream up shit. I don't need my astrology to give me any ideas as to how my day could be. So I realized I had, for myself, now other people, this works for you, you go for it. But for me, I depended on it. I was looking at it. I was doing rune readings and cards and stuff. And they said, yeah, yet. Be prepared for every day, because every day is a day of joy. And at any time the world could end. So have fun, regardless, do the best you can. So, and get out of the fear of, well, of course I want to be warned if something bad's going to happen, but then that's where watching the totems and watching the animals and watching nature, where the hell is the sun coming up today, kind of thing. Those are the things that will warn us if we're paying attention. So, and again, has nothing to do with people who do astrology or charts or anything. And if you're one of those folks, I mean no offense to you. I swear to God, from my heart, I mean it. A lot of people, because there were a lot of it. I was like, and I'm a Libra. Yes, I'm a dragon. I'm a water dragon. So, and there are things that I will look back on and go, now ain't that interesting? On that particular day, it said such and such, and this is what happened. So, and I also feel differently about me wanting to see the future. I'm careful what you wish for, because back when they showed me all of these visions and things, I mean, with faces and stuff, and people getting steam baked and boiled by that volcano down in Guatemala that I foretold just hours before it happened. That shit I cannot get out of my mind. It was horrible. And just other things in the future. I don't really want to know. I'm just going to do the best I can. I'm going to keep my eyes open. I'm 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 always alert, but not that I'm going to be frightened or scared or live in fear. I'm just paying attention, like Duggar is right now, looking out the window. So, and it took me a while to not live in fear, but but to be alert without being in fear. And so these things, you learn and practice. So, but anyway, but honestly, whatever gets you through the day, go for it. But I've noticed myself and a few other people that a warning is a warning. Well, we've got these full moon, blood moon, whatever the thingy. Okay. And I mean this. Thank you. I will pay attention a little more closely, but I am not going to put my brain in any kind of what if situation. Oh, it's coming up. Okay. It's going to be this. Okay. And it's going to do it. But what it's going to do, I'm going to stay out of there. What it could do, we might have a chat. But I would rather just say, okay, there's that. Well, it means this and this and this. Yeah, from you. But then there's some other people who are talking about the same thing, but this is what it means to them. Well, it's a blood moon to these people, and it means this. Blood moon to these people over here, totally different conversation, but it's still called a blood moon. And then there are these folks over there to talk about a blood moon, and they're talking about, and they've got a different twist on their stuff. So, but what's the bottom line? Well, there's blood moon coming up. Okay, so we'll pay a little extra attention just in case something happens. That's all. Anyway, I hope I didn't hurt anybody's feelings. We don't need to dig for answers. They'll show up with the animals. Yes, 555 is his Masonic number for death and rebirth. Yes, transformation change as the butterfly affects some energy. Yeah, I agree. And a lot of folks have seen the 2022, 2023. So this year is the preparation and the lead up for next year. I think there's going to be certain things happen this year, but the future is not necessarily it, from here to the end of this year as it will be in 2022. That's what has been coming to me. So anyway, no, I'm on the opposite end of the state, Crafty. But I know friend. I had a friend of mine. If he's still alive, then he still lives up there. Up there near Athens, and well, actually northeast of Athens, near literally not too far from where the Georgia Guidestones are located. Now, somebody told me they went in there and took them down. Now, I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember the name of that little community that was there, but I can remember driving through there and visiting him every time I was up in that area and staying with him on his place. And we'd been down to the Broad River, and I have kayaked off a waterfall. Oh my God, that was so much fun. I climbed back up and did it again. You know, it was one thing to jump off the waterfall, but it was another to go flying off that thing in a kayak. Oh my God, what a blast. Anyway, um, yeah, I did it. But anyway, so yeah, it's there. It's an interesting area up where my friend Dale lives, and just in general. See, that's interesting now. So Ian, and the different stories of that, it depends on how far north you are, because there are no 3 days of darkness for the Seminole Indians. Okay, there is no 3 days of darkness for the Choctaw at the winter solstice. Uh, it is only in the northern tribes. So those folks, and that's my point about this. So there are totems, there are signs, but it doesn't necessarily relate to everybody. It relates to those folks affected by it in that region. Now, those regions can intersect and there be other, it could mean earth changes, and it could mean earth changes in that area or all over the place. Now, my chances of an earthquake are much less than most folks on the planet. Does that mean it can't happen? No. There are underground caverns and things, and if there was a big enough shake, there, of course there would be earthquakes. But all around me, towards Alabama, down in Florida, in the Panhandle, they've had earthquakes in Alabama. Panhandle over there on the other side of the Apalachicola Chattahoochee River, excuse me. For a while now, that some pretty, in the threes, but it's not here, so it's rattled up on North Carolina and Georgia border a couple of times, and North Georgia on both sides, but not here. So whatever signs of the earth moving for me down here are not going to be the same as for people in areas that are more prone to, the earth moving and booming and stuff like that. So and the animals will tell you if the earth's fixing to move, and that kind of thing. But my point is though, but the animals will tell you, but since we don't have buffalo down here, buffalo can't tell me anything. It can tell y'all who live, up there in that area in the Lakotas and so forth. But anyway, so Beltran was a long weekend. What, Samara? Ireland is noted as paganism and Wiccan. Yeah. He rose 3 days later. Yeah. I understand. I get it. I may catch hell for this, but I'm a ride or die Walking Dead fan. Would love to visit the set over in Senola, Georgia. The Walking Dead. I got you. That's way north of me. Uh, but yeah, yeah, I know about that, Crafty. You know, my one of I met a shaman type medicine man who was supposedly a descendant of Crazy Horse, Lakota, and he and I visited one whole weekend in Tullahoma, Tennessee, in a blinding snow. And a very interesting man, and I will never forget, our conversation and the power of just who he was, just and just how he stood. It was just like, wow, anyway. But yeah, and I've read that, there are other traditions too who talk about that, the boat people will be wiped off of Turtle Island, and being part boat people and being part Turtle Island native, you know, although there are some of them boat people I would surely love to shove off this island. You know what I'm saying? How I live in my lifestyle and my affinity towards, keeping things natural and keeping it simple. And then these other people, like my neighbors over there, that, spent all weekend long mowing the grass on something that's already too short, to have this manicured, plantation look about their place. And nothing grows over there. All the birds and all the animals live on my place next door because there's habitat and food for them. And, and it's anyway, it is what it is, thank God they only come every 2 weeks to mow and do all that noise up there. And it's like they should leave it alone for a couple of weeks, more than just, and they cut it like this close. It's horrible. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Anyway, but that's how one of my ex-wives was, and I watch the field and watch the grass, and there are different plants that come up at different seasons. And if you mow all the time and keep it only, then nothing else shows up. And the ground is essentially dead, in my humble opinion. But anyway, see, that's how I live in cycles and with the earth and watching. And other people just try to rule everything. I'm going to mow the lawn until I'm going to use weed killer. I mean, anyway, the Elkhorns is on my Facebook as suicide is happening. Yeah, bad suicide. Yeah, it started years ago. Uh, yeah, Trudeau's not friendly. Not too many are. Yeah, me too, Chloe. I'm sleepy. Spread your wings. Ian says there was a Lakota ghost shirt found in a museum here in Scotland a few years back. They held a ceremony to present it back to the tribal elders. Wow, that's interesting. You know, yeah, for those folks, who have not really understood about the ghost dance, it's a really short story, and as far as their tradition, and it's something that the white people just went crazy over. Uh, so, um, I think there are many of us that are still having a ghost dance in our heart. Because although there's a lot of me that's, at least half of a half, uh, is I'm at least about a quarter Cherokee by the time you get it all, but I'm not trying to count it. I'm just saying, I probably do have, more of the other in me. But as far as my energy and who I am as a person, I am not a white man. I've never lived in the white man's world. I have always been a native in that respect, as a Boy Scout, Cub Scout, as an old man living in a swamp. Uh, and I want to take Doug to the river really bad. Chief Tecumseh was then 30 years old, and he made yeah, Tecumseh, yeah. Well, and then there's Sitting Bull, and they arrested him. I think it was Sitting Bull. Then took him and um um. We used to go to St. Augustine once or twice a year because I lived in Tampa. We'd visit certain places in the state, and we went over to the prison and over there way back in the '60s. And I remember something about that they took him to St. Augustine and put him in the prison there for several years, and then let him out, and he went back to that. They followed him all the way back to the reservation. But anyway, he was a Lakota tribeman, Sitting Bull, and Crazy Horse. Who? Oh, Tecumseh? Yeah. But anyway, it just goes to show you what the white man, how many, white men speak with forked tongue. Can't trust any of them. And I find that true because they threw me in jail. They threw me in a mental hospital without my permission. They've done so many things. They put taxes and levies on my property when all I wanted to do was just live with Mother Nature. And, uh, so, do I trust them? Oh, hell no. But I've learned, be nice to them. Yes, sir, boss man. No, sir, boss man. Does it mean that I like them or subscribe or, no, but they're going to think I am, you know. Well, is that being real honest? Well, if I need to, I won't literally kiss his ass, but I'll pretend like I am. But I'm going to know in my heart that I got to do this to pretend that this guy thinks I'm on his side, So I know what I'm doing. And if I'm going to lie to somebody that's beat me up and chain me to rapists and murderers and taking my civil rights away, and am I going to be loyal to those people? Probably not. But will I lie through my teeth if it fits my my situation? You betcha. Is that being an honest person? Well, are they honest with me? Just saying. Uh, can anyone give a clue Irish Indian means on American Vital? My mom's biological parents have. They separated a bunch of stuff back in the day, Witch Moon, and they were trying to keep track of the Irish. For whatever reason, they wanted to keep track of the Irish. There were stuff that, well, he's Irish. Well, yeah, so when the Irish moved westward, kind of thing. Well, he's Irish. There's old westerns, talking about the Irishman. So it was, there were, the Germans, not so much, but the Irish, were known for their swigging and this and their that. And I don't know what it was, but it was a stigma. So they weren't just, he was Irish and Indian, because the Irish were fiery tempered. So now you're going to combine them with the fiery temper of the Irish and combine it with the Native American. And what are you going to have? You're going to have a redheaded savage that wants to scalp you twice as, especially if they get any whiskey in them. You know what I mean? So they had lots of different ways of looking at things back then. But anyway, The vision of the generals with no ears. Who was that? Done a dance looking into the sun for the full day. I can't remember. Irish born of Indian. Yep. There's a lot of stuff that happened on the West Coast of the United States that didn't actually become traditions on the East Coast so much with the Irish. And a lot of the Irish traveled all the way across to work on the trains, to work on, a lot of the Irish worked on the railroads, went west and went looking for gold. And, and didn't do a lot of staying in the middle, not too much. But there were a lot of Irish folks that went to, up and to do the gold strike and things and stuff. And with them, they took their traditions. But in many places, the Irish, they didn't like the Irish any better than they liked the Indians. So just saying, both Protestants and Catholics, yeah. But anyway, so, and the folks who traveled Canada looked at the whole thing totally different than the folks who went from New York across than they did if they went from Toronto across to BC. It was a trip across the continent, but totally different in how they looked, felt, lived, sled dogs, snow. I mean, and point of view. So, although and I mean this with respect, the Canucks are our northern cousins, brothers, sisters, whatever. I've been to Canada, and they don't act quite the same as folks down here. And I don't mean that badly. I mean, they just act it's different. It's like folks down here in the South don't act like Northerners do, I know people who lived in Brooklyn and grew up there and all that kind of stuff. And they do not act the same way up there as we act down here. And, and the folks in Atlanta are not true Southerners, in my humble opinion. But anyway, then they're Metronites. But anyway, my folks, it has been way too long. I'm out of drink and potty's calling. I've been here now almost 4 hours. It's 7:17 a.m. I've been here another damn hour. Crap. Yep, I understand. So I said a prayer an hour ago, but I will say it again. I'm gonna stick around because I got another pup in this bowl. And for those of you who are gonna be here, yeah, it's not good night, it's good morning. It's 6:20 on my clock here. It's a little fast, but in the morning. Thank you, Witch Moon, for all your comments and so forth. And wish I could have a conversation, but anyway, thank you. Too many things are, some of the things you write, I'm like, well, wait, and I don't get to the comment section to be able to answer, but just know I have read them. Okay. Crafty, it's good to see you. Ian, as always. Chloe, of course. Yeah, I'm fixing to go outside and look at my porch. If I can stay awake long enough, I'm going to crank up my truck and go into town and pick up some more cement. That was sort of my reason. I took several naps, till like 3 o'clock this morning. And then I was like, well, I was doing this and that. And then they was like, do this little video thing. I'm like, okay. So, but I'm hoping that I can stay awake. I'm going to go make another pot of coffee. And this was yesterday morning's coffee that I'm finishing now. So 24 hours later. But I go into town and pick up some more concrete so I can finish up my porch. Well, I'm glad, Witch Moon, for however that goes. I'm glad. Okay. And I will continue to try to be of service in any way that I possibly can. So you drink the 24-hour later coffee too? Yeah, and I don't stay. I don't have to. I just add a little milk and a dash of sugar, because that's how I like it. But I drink most of my coffee cold. When I first make it, of course, my first cup or so is hot. But people are like, you drink. It's just room temperature. Now, unfortunately, I learned that when I was in prison, because when you're in jail, you very rarely get anything that's really truly hot or cold. Everything was lukewarm. I mean, everything, you know. Now there at nighttime, a lot of times now, when I worked in the kitchen, we had access to an ice machine. But if you were in the cell block, you got a cup of iced tea for lunch. You know, the coffee was lukewarm at best in the mornings. Afternoon and supper, you got more ice than tea. So, and it, it's in a small cup, so you didn't get much. Um, and anything that came out of the fountain in the cell block was, of course, just room temperature kind of stuff. So, and I swore then when I was in jail, I said, I will never be a slave to ice again. Now, a cold drink, yes, but ice, don't care. You want ice in that? No. Is it cold? Yeah. Okay, I'll take it. So I've learned to drink things at room temperature. And where other people just can't stand it, well, I just can't drink that. I'm like, okay, I'll drink it for you then. Well, but it's lukewarm. So, and I see these folks that they say, well, I'm not addicted to anything. Yeah, you are. You're addicted to ice. You're addicted to something cold. You're going to pour out half of your drink because it's a little warm. Shame on you, you wasteful thing, and a blah, blah, blah. Oh, but I'm all, no, you ain't, you ain't even got a clue. But then if you get stuck someplace, or the hurricane comes and you had to do without ice for a couple of days, and you were drinking lukewarm stuff, and man, it really changed your attitude, didn't it? They're clad, you know what I'm saying? So, and I'm not trying to be rude with people, but there are just some folks that they think they got it all together, but something as simple as an ice cold drink will drive them over the edge if they can't have it and they're used to it. Or sweet tea. I grew up down here in the South, and there's a female cardinal out there on the ground digging for food early this morning. I think I've already seen uh, it's a little red head with green bodied uh, uh, hummingbird that I've seen the last couple of times. But there's a bigger one. He's like this big, where the other one's like this big. And there is a thrush type. Oh, she's gathering sticks for a nest. She's picking them out in the yard. Oh, wait, there's two of them. Oh, she's looking for nest material. That's interesting. Oh, wow. Picking up stuff to eat, but I mean, she was like moving limbs out there. Some of the limbs from the tree I cut down over there against the hedge over there. I've been cleaning them up and putting them on the pile. And she's over there picking up the smaller stuff, just tossing around and looking at another one. Two females together. Well, looking for whatever. I'm glad the cats are asleep. They'd be out there chasing them. Oh, There they go. I said cats and they flew off. But anyway, so my friends, have a great day. Thanks for hanging out. 7:24. Missed it by 4. Looking out the window. So let's finish this off and starlings are cool. We have some that live under the bridge. There are places that have chimneys, and we call them chimney sweeps, but they're basically a similar bird. Yeah, we don't have many blue jays down here, not like we used to have. There has been a complete shift in the types of birds that have been here. I was almost to see if the sun was going to come through the window, but you can kind of see through the house a little bit, maybe. Here, let me. Where's the? Oh, okay. There's Duggar. So that window is not quite east. The window over here is more east, but then there's another window behind the pole over there in the bay window, and the sun's been coming in through that window way over here. So this is wait, let me get my finger. That window there, I expect the sun to come through. The window over there, that's right in that little bit of light right there, it's not supposed to come through that window at all, ever. It's too far north. And my house is just set up with like a 15 degrees off a true east. So I'm cocked a little bit 15 degrees south. So it will come up in the middle window of the bay windows, but it's never supposed to come up in the window to the north side of the bay window. So, but anyway, and it's been coming in there already. That's my proof. The house is my, has not moved on the ground after all these years. And my testament is I got a compass on the floor over there, and I've got lines drawn on the floor. So if the compass ever gets kicked, I can always put it back in the same location that it's been now for 6-7 years down there on the floor. So if I want to check, it has true north changed from the position of my house, because I could hold the compass and it point north, but is it pointing north in relationship to when I drew those lines on the floor of when it was north? You know what I mean? So that's the reason I did it. So I have a constant, and sometimes I'll walk over there and look down at it, and it'll be pointing to the northwest. Just, it is very rarely pointed to the northeast. If anything, it's always the compass is always varied to the northwest. I had not thought about that before, but as an observation, that's true. So I look down on the floor and I go, "Whoa, it's a little northwest today," meaning it's like hanging towards me. And here lately, though, it's been dead on due north, magnetically speaking, anyway. So, but anyway. So, but yeah, sun coming in that northeast window is not supposed to be happening, and not even in June at the solstice. So we are definitely in a wobble anyway. You live in a tree house. Cool. Freshwater river. Cool. Mine is the Little Ocklackney River, and it is a swampy one. But anyway, my friends, I really, I have to go. So but also it's been long enough. Have a sweet day to all of you. Crafty, Ian, Chloe, as always, and anybody else. If I missed you, I'm just going to go. I've already said prayers an hour ago, but remember that I do love you. I do, and many of you, y'all roll through my prayers on a daily basis, and so I just want to say, be safe. Keep up the good work. Keep sharing those prayers. Keep sharing that good energy. And whatever happens in the future, let's not get overzealous about what might happen. Let's worry about our daily events. Plan on a better tomorrow. And we'll see what happens tomorrow. Because I had no idea the last couple of days that I was going to get visitors. And I had people show up. We had nice visits. So you never know what's going to happen, good or bad. So let's not try to project it too much into the future. Just stick with it. So, my friends, Michelle, if you're still out there, have a great day, everyone. And if you're feeling, Cherry, if you're out there, if you're feeling that, you're being trapped and you got into this video late, go back to the beginning. Maybe it will help you. Okay. So have a great day. Until next time, as I always say from South Georgia, thank you, Bob, by the way. It's been a little glitchy, but we're here. Thank you, everyone. All you wonderful subscribers. You're not my subscribers, but you know what I mean. Thank you for what you do. Keep up the good work. Keep up the good energy. And never feel alone because we've got each other's backs. Believe, 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 believe. Yes, we. Cherry, if you're feeling like you're being overwhelmed and trapped, take a deep breath and just look around at your options. That's a place to start. So be safe. TTFN. Until next time, my friends, be safe, okay? Adios, mi amigos, mi amigas. Gracias, and double cheers.